a new title screen here if it's going to be the same. It's new. Okay. Which is kind of a bit foreboding considering what happened. Okay, let me get the settings set up here and I'll switch to game capture. Full screen. Voice is off. Text speed pretty fast. Okay, 3, 2, 1, boom. There it is. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now, let me open up my document here. So we got a little bit of theorizing to do, so if you got anything to do, and you can't be here for very long, you might as well come back in like 30 minutes to an hour, because it'll probably take a hot minute. I actually don't think there's a whole lot to do in this chapter compared to the previous ones. Sorry if I sound a little bit nasally. I think I might have a little bit of a cold. I don't know what's going on, but... Okay. So, there's a lot of stuff that happened in this chapter. It was kind of, it was kind of just all over the place. Also, this shouldn't be here. So, the one big takeaway we learned from the last chapter, Rina is an exceptionally unreliable narrator. That was really the biggest takeaway. But at the end, they kind of honey-dicked us back in and told us, like, hey, maybe she's not as unreliable as you think she is. So, there's going to be a little bit of parsing to go through this stuff here. But, there's a few things that we can be, like, pretty sure of. So, as far as predictions go, Rika is in some kind of Groundhog Day type meme, where she keeps reliving a set amount of time. It sounds like it is the entire course of the, or I should say, it is the entire string of killings going back about 5 years. This explains her behavior in Chapter 4 with Akasaka, as well as her behavior in this chapter. So this is like the big thing. Do a little one of these here. So we know right off the bat, there's obviously more to Rika. Keiichi has some ability to tap into this as well. Whereas Rika can, or seemingly we'll say, we don't know, retains all her memories of the other timelines. Keiichi is only somewhat sensitive to them. He remembers the past few, or at least a handful from the chapters we have played, but it's insinuated that Rika has been doing this for a very long time. Much more than, 5 to 6 times. Okay. So that's like the kind of big takeaways that we learned here. In terms of like the overarching story. So we know that Rika is doing some weird, I don't want to say time travel, but I guess it is time travel. She's stuck in a loop, basically. There was a few things, though, that felt kind of hand-wavy in this chapter that were a little bit, like, hard to dissect, whether they actually meant something or not. So the one big thing that kind of bothered me was, where is it here? Right here. Oishi said that the mistake by the Gifu prefecture with Takano's autopsy was simply that. It was just a mistake in the autopsy. That just seems too hand-wavy to me. They had like this whole meme with Chapter 2 and Chapter 5 of showing the Shion Mion like doppelganger meme. And furthermore, this still doesn't explain the doppelganger for Keiichi that we had in Chapter 3, or why the bodies disappeared in Chapter 3. The only thing that makes sense in Chapter 3 is given some of the context clues that we were given from this chapter in regards to the killings that Rina did. So when she killed the other Rina and Tepe, we know that Mion took the bodies and moved them because there was going to be a logging project in the mountains where they buried them. Rika had this as sort of like a bad thing, but we realized from looking at it from like a third-party perspective that it was more of a misunderstanding. And I think there's that potential that that's what happened with Keiichi in Chapter 3. When he was kind of going berserk. I'm sorry, I don't know why I yawned so much. That when Keiichi was going berserk or whatever, maybe somebody caught wind of it. You know, he had the conversation with Mion that was similar to Satoshi. Maybe Mion caught wind of kind of what was going on, and that was why the body went missing in regards to Tepe. We don't know that, of course, but it can be inferred that that's like probably what happened. Oh yeah, yeah. I've been keeping some pretty wild notes. So I wonder. I'll do a word count at the end of this when I'm done, and we'll see how much it came out to. This is easily going to be over 10,000 or 20,000 probably. The one thing, so there's a few things that I gotta, so let's, I'm actually gonna put this here, things we need to know. So first, cause of the Great Hinamizawa disaster. Okay, this is like kind of a pretty big one, because it seems like this happens in almost every timeline. We don't know whether or not it happened in the first timeline. Same with Chapter 2, because there was so many murders and shit that, like, Keiichi died before that ever would have happened. I do think it should have happened in Chapter 2, though, just based off the timeline, because, to my knowledge, Keiichi lived for, like, a week after in Chapter 2, so unless he literally died, like, the day of before it happened, that would be the only explanation. But in Chapter 1, he died well before the disaster would have happened, because to my knowledge, the disaster happens about a week after with Tanagashi. So in Chapter 1, he never would have got to see it to fruition, because he would have just died. Chapter 4 has no bearing at all, because it's 5 years prior, so we don't have to really worry too much about that. I think Chapter 4 is honestly more so just to give you details about Rika's mystery, which kind of was all but revealed in this chapter that we just played, so... Fuck, one sec, my water bottle's fucked up here. I think the straw came undone it. So, the big things then we have to think about, Chapter 3 was the first time that it was visibly happening. Again, could have happened in the other chapters, we don't know. Chapter 4, again, prior, so not too big of a deal. Chapter 5 was just a Chapter 2 from a different perspective. Shion also dies before it ever would have mattered. So again, not too much. So realistically, we have 2 chapters of it happening. But we can probably infer that it's going to happen no matter what, just based off of Rika's saying. I know that Takano was doing like cult stuff. I still do think that her theory about there being like a religious sect within the village is probably not wrong, even if she was a little bit of a whackpot. But we'll get into that later, because that's going to come down to the actual events and stuff that happen in Chapter 6, which we'll go through when we do, like, theories. What else do we need to know? Well, again, this is still important, and this is still not known. We still have no fucking clue what happened to them. The only thing that we can say about Tomitake is that it probably wasn't the Sonozakis. And there's like a pretty high suspicion on Rika. I don't know what her reasoning would be for killing him. I don't know if maybe Tomitake is like has more under the surface, because the one big thing that kind of stood out like a sore thumb was reading through the credits on Chapter 3, and it said that Tomatake's name was an alias. So then the question would be, what's the purpose of him having an alias? There has to be some reason why he wouldn't want to use his regular name. I remember I initially thought it was that Akasaka was Tomatake, but I think that's what the game wanted you to think, and they're definitely not the same person. Takano's is a little bit more interesting, just given the whole timeline, because again, from Chapter 3, it kind of seems like Takano was the one that killed Tomatake. I could pull up the video, but again, most of the people that are watching this have probably already seen the game. So whenever the passage is after Keiichi goes back to Teppei's body, and he gets caught by Takano, like, in the act. I don't know if it's trying to bury it or whatever the fuck he was trying to do. But he gets caught. Maybe it was when he was walking home and he was just beat tired. I don't fucking know. It doesn't really matter. He was walking home. He was in the forest. He got caught by Takano on the path. There's a few things that stick out about Tomatake's death that are kind of point towards her. One, his bike was in her car at the time. And his bike was also found at his murder scene. She also wouldn't let us open up the trunk. I feel like I remember Keiichi wanted to open up the trunk. I'm pretty sure Tomatake was dead in her trunk. I think she was moving the body. And that's probably why his bike ended up showing up at the scene along with his body. She probably had something to do with it with other people. The question is, though, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because if Tomatake was killed somewhere else than dumped, the question is whether when we saw Takano, that was before or after he was killed. Because if I recall, Oishi said there was like a wooden plank wherever they found him. It was like at the road leading out of Hinamizawa, I think, where they find his body. And they said that he had like a wooden plank, like a 2x4 that he was swinging around that was like strewn on the ground. I guess she could have placed that there, so I still think it's more likely that, you know, she made it look like it was a fight or something. We obviously know that... The crazy thing is, man, I really feel like Rina's parasite theory was, like, actually super bang on. So I'm not super keen to let go of that yet. I know that they kind of tried to pull back on that towards the end with, like, trying to say that Rina was a creeper and that she was wild, and then they tried to, like, double pull it back by when Akasaka was like, oh, maybe he was actually kind of right. There's kind of a lot to dissect there. But the one thing that I said, let me see if I can find it somewhere here. Here. I was talking about how if the parasite theory is true, then it makes a lot of fucking sense, and it makes a lot of things line up. And it could very well be that obviously the writers made it so it fits very well, and that the true reason is, like, much more simple. But we know for a fact that, maybe not for a fact, but we know with, like, some level of confidence that Rina wasn't lying when she went to the mental ward about seeing the maggots or whatever. And it had to be induced by something. If I recall, you know, I had it in here somewhere. If I can find my fucking mouse cursor, here it is. That somewhere here, she talked about getting shots. Let me, Oh, here we go. So, she kept saying she doesn't want to get any more shots. But at the same time, to my knowledge from whatever Rina was telling us, she only took pills from the doctor. So who is giving her shots is, like, the weird thing. But my thinking is, and I'll go back down to the point that I had somewhere here, that if this parasite theory is real, or something that could be, like, super close to being the same, you know, that would fit in the same hole, this makes a lot of sense. The syringe has to have something to do with this, you know? And we know that Rika had possession of the syringe in Chapter 5 when she tried to kill Shion, technically in the Chapter 2 timeline, but, you know, two sides of the same coin kind of meme. So, if that's the situation, we know Rika has to know some way to get this. Rika obviously knows whatever, or maybe she doesn't. Well, she should know, considering that she's probably been in this like time loop for a disgusting amount of time, so there's like absolutely no way she doesn't. But this, I was talking about chapter 1, because I thought that this was going to go on a chapter 3 timeline, but it kind of leaned more into like some of the events of chapter 1 and maybe explained it a little bit better. And so I said, this explains chapter 1, 2 possibilities: either Keiichi had the parasite, and this is talking about at the end of chapter 1, or he did not. If he did have it, it's pretty straightforward, they were talking about how it like fucks with you or something. It like fucks with your brain, makes you the strong version of the parasite, makes you turn into a demon or whatever that shit was, makes you violent. He went crazy and killed Rina and Mion because he had the virus. That seems kind of a boring, straightforward explanation to me. The more plausible thing is that, now, again, there's a little bit of a... I don't delete any notes when I go, so some of this stuff could be like totally wrong. It's kind of the whole point, so that I can look back and be like, damn, look how wrong I was. But the question, I guess, in this chapter as well, which quickly I'll write down here, I guess it's like Rina's sanity. Like, we'll get back to this, but that's kind of like, this is sort of a big linchpin to whether or not this theory even makes sense. But again, I will explain this without stopping now. The more plausible thing to me is that Keiichi is similar. We're going to assume that Rina was, on base, that she wasn't like crazy. Even though she might have been a little bit wrong on some stuff. The alien stuff, a little bit sussy, not sure about that. But the more plausible to me is that Keiichi didn't have the parasite, and like Rina in this chapter, he was getting close to unveiling some deep shit going on, and that potentially Rina and Mion were infected by the parasite in chapter 1, explaining their odd behavior. Again, considering what they were talking about with Irie's role, it also explains the director and doctor switch-up that happened at the end of chapter 1 that I was so hung up and bothered by, that they were saying doctor and then they were saying director. And if Rina is right, that Irie is the director behind everything, he's also the village doctor, kind of makes sense. And we know for certain that one way or another by the end of the chapter, regardless of whether Keiichi had or didn't have the parasite, and by the end of the chapter, I mean chapter 1, he does have it by the end of the chapter, because he claws his throat out in the phone booth while he's on call with Oishi. So we know for a fact that he has whatever Rina was having, and whatever Tomitake had. So, again, there's just like, we still just don't know, because like, I guess I should also put down here, like, truth behind the syringe. Because there's really not a whole lot that we need left to tie up everything. There's really not a whole lot that's, like... Because the Chapter 2 timeline, it's kind of cool, but the Chapter 2 timeline is almost entirely isolated. It might make more sense later on if we have... if we have some stuff that becomes apparent in this chapter. But for the most part... like... Oh, sorry, this is another thing that was bothering me. I didn't like the hand waviness of this chapter, and I hope that this was like a bait by the devs of this game. Because I didn't like that Keiichi is remembering the events of chapter 1 and basically saying that things that at least we thought definitely happened just didn't happen. That like the needle in the food wasn't there, that Mion never tried to syringe him, that she was like drawing on him with a felt tip marker. And then this is also, you can disregard this. This was wrong. He kind of said the bodies weren't there, but then like later recounted the fact that he killed them and said the bodies were there. So maybe it's just a translation error on that. But and then he says right after he killed them, he also kind of says that they were trying to kill him. That's what I just don't get this section. Put it this way, I don't think the game is gonna like, I don't want to say retcon, but I don't think the game is gonna like pull like an omega lull, like, oh, that didn't actually happen. It's like, oh, okay. This feels like when you watch a show and at the end they're like, oh, it was a dream the whole time. It's like, oh, holy fuck, let me blow my brains out. This was such a dog shit ending. I also should change this, or I should say, has some amount of memory bleed. That's what I was calling it earlier. He remembers the past few, or at least a handful from the chapters we played. Yeah, okay. So, now we're just gonna do... I guess we'll be... I don't know, there's like a lot of... well, okay, we'll do this again. So, again, there's not really a whole lot of stuff that we need to know. Okay. So, this would be like our theories section here. And let me do this real quick. There we go. Okay. So, right off the bat, this is absolutely true, okay? There's not even a doubt about this. There's actually zero doubt that this part is true. So, I don't even really need to address too much. So now we'll go point by point. We'll go for the cause of the Great Hinamizawa disaster. Sorry, I'm going to be a little bit quiet here because I'm going to think. You're going to hear me fucking moaning and making weird noises while I write shit out here. Okay, so we'll go. I'll stop after I write a point. We'll talk about it. So, I'm still leaning towards some religious cult in the village that sets off the disaster. I guess I should say like the one thing for anybody who is maybe not super familiar with, I guess, my takes as this game has gone on. I have almost always found in this game, and I think it's deliberate, that almost everything that has initially been billed. Everything that has initially been billed with some sort of supernatural undertones has almost always, and I mean always, ended up not being supernatural in the slightest. When they were talking about, you know, in this chapter, they were talking that maybe Oyashiro was actually like a doctor that came and treated the virus, right? That makes more sense. Blah, blah, blah. Run down all this past stuff. When they were talking about, we still never really learned out what the footsteps were. Chapter 5 was supposed to be, like, what I thought was gonna, like, kind of pull the lid off of it, but they really do fuck all. Sorry, excuse me. So, but in Chapter 4, Akasaka no Oishi kind of posed a theory that if somebody was at some other section, like groundwater thing that was connected to the Onigafuchi swamp, it's possible that somebody could divert flow or change pressure somewhat. So basically they could have something that maybe is even installed in the systems of the groundwater, you know, whatever the connected water bodies are. And that by diverting pressure one way or another, they could actually cause the release of the volcanic gas. Now again, as I put in the note section here, this hinges on whether or not the volcanic gas meme is even real, which is part of the question that comes up at the end of Chapter 6. They start talking that if the infection theory is true, that maybe this volcanic gas shit isn't even real. And the SDF was actually just fucking executing all the people that got infected. Because if it was the parasite, like they were saying before, right? There's actually one thing I want to check here. I'm going to, I'll put on display capture in a second here. I want to look at when I was streaming Chapter 3. Oh yeah, that's fine. You don't have to talk too much. I'm just gonna... This is like an open forum, me just talking out loud like a kappa. I'm gonna find... Where is it here? Is this it? Chapter 3. Yes, this is it. Okay. I'm gonna put on a display capture here. We're gonna go to the end of Chapter 3, and we're just gonna skim through it real quick. Because I want to see... specifically the part where Keiichi wakes up. So right here. Let me just read this here. I want to see the part where Keiichi... Oh, we're dropping frames a little bit. It's not too bad of a frame drop, though, so I don't really care. I want to see this part where Keiichi wakes up. Because there was one specific part that I remember them talking about, which I thought was very interesting. They kept saying that, the volcanic gas that came out had a high molecular density. And so because of that, if it sits in the atmosphere, it's more dense, it's going to sink to the ground. Because the atmosphere is less dense than this is. So when Keiichi was laying down inside that little cavern, that was Keiichi was there was a bridge over here, right? Keiichi is down under the bridge in this rocky area by a cliff. He is fucking passed out down here, just pieced out, right? And you got Satoko up here who's being a stupid bitch or something. He's fuck you, Keiichi, you're evil or something. So Keiichi's down here, and we don't know what happened to Satoko because she ended up going missing. But if the volcanic gas, which I believe would have came from over this way, if it's coming in from over here and it's ooh, if it's a high density gas, it's gonna sink down. So it's gonna go like this. It's gonna ride along the edge, and then it's gonna accumulate here. But Keiichi didn't die at all, which is one of the things they brought up at the end. Is how the fuck did Keiichi even live? Because if this was a high density gas, there's no fucking way that he should have lived sitting in a low ground area where the gas would have collected. It would have been a reservoir. So it doesn't make any sense that he lived here. So we'll keep this drawing because I think it's a little bit of a masterpiece. But it'll probably come into play a little bit later. I just want to see... Okay, let's speed this up too. Yeah, so you can see he's down here. He's inside this thing. I'm not gonna... So then he starts walking away. Wait, actually, I want to read this here. He said something about broken car seat. There's a mirror clicking over my eyes. Right next to me, upside down car seat. Upside down car seat. Because again, remember, we'll also add this to the drawing. This happened at nighttime, right? So nobody evacuated. They made this a pretty big thing, that everybody in the village died because nobody evacuated. So unless this was here beforehand, which maybe we just can't know. Insects turn on their back. So this is another thing though, right? Insects are dead as well. If insects are dead as well, it makes sense, but, insects can fly. They're not going to be in areas that are, low. Some of them will be. But for the most part, you're probably not going to see, a whole ton of them. I question if maybe they sprayed, some very intense, disinfectant or something. I think past me is a little bit confused by this statement as well. This is what I want to see, though. Combined with all the... Boom, right there. Wait, they actually just said it. They said it right here. Had somebody sprayed herbicides or pesticides around here? These motherfuckers thought they were being sleek. They thought they were being clean on me. You can't get by me, okay? I'm like a coffee filter. So right now, I'm getting even more confident that Rina, even though she went a little bit crazy, might have actually been on the right track. I think Keiichi was just on a massive fucking dose of copium. And he was lying. Maybe not lying, but misremembering things that happened in that last chapter. Oops, wait. There was also another part about fumigating. Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. Because it made kind of a pretty concerted effort to make sure this was known. I just want to hear what it says when he sees the SDF soldiers. Because that's the question, right? The question with the SDF soldiers, because obviously they don't kill him, the question is if we can pick up anything that might let them know if it's a, what do you call it? If it's a cover-up. Because that was the idea. There was like a government cover-up for what was going on. Mid-afternoon, with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Now, I'm trying to remember what the gas they said it was. I want to say it was like sulfur dioxide. Let me search up if it has a smell. A pungent smell. Okay, so it does, so never mind. But there's two possibilities. He could either be smelling, a disgusting amount of like gas that was released, or he could be smelling just a bunch of dead fucking bodies from people that they killed, right? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. School came into view, yeah. They were also talking about, like, no corrosion that you would have expected from reactions with the natural environment to the gas, so... Heard something. Few trucks. Idling in the schoolyard. In raincoats. Okay. Not gonna... Polyfill cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. There were containers, fairly large ones, patchwork bags. I'm sure I'm just talking about this being body bags or something at this point. Awful smell, so it's the smell of death. Ooh, but wait, this is big. It wasn't the same burned egg smell. So again, sulfur, if you ever smelt it, kind of got a little bit of a burned egg, kind of like rotten egg smell. So I don't know. Now it's hard to tell whether or not. So one is like death, one is Brown Self-Defense Forces. Okay, holy fuck, let's just get to the... And he had a gas mask. Like, I just feel like this wouldn't be such a... but I guess, like, if they were using, like, pesticides or something, they wouldn't want to breathe them in either. This is the problem, right? It's like an impossible fucking thing to... And they had no exposed skin either. Do you live in Hinamizawa was the first thing he asked. Survivor discovered. I don't know, there's just like a... you also got to remember, too, he got put in the back of a fucking thing. Okay, cool. We don't need to read the rest of this, though. We get the meme. So now the question is... Holy fuck, I'm dropping frames pretty rough. It's fine, we're not really doing anything yet, so it doesn't matter too much. But... So then now... We need to figure out... How much of this do we trust? How much of this is... Because this is the problem, right? We gotta think about a few things. There are so many things that could be the reason for why Keiichi didn't end up getting fucking clapped by the gas. So let's just put here. This is kind of gonna answer like 3 questions here, because these are all sort of intertwined. This one here will be the last point. I don't want to waste too much more time on this, because we'll probably get half of the shit dispelled, like, instantly. I don't think that Rina was being entirely crazy. She definitely lost it towards the end of the chapter. Not sure if I buy the aliens meme. However, the parasite theory, we'll just write down what I was talking about. I'm actually gonna... This is the other thing too, right? It's very possible that they had like a confirmation bias of sorts that they were working, so that people who have read Takano's scrapbooks work in a way to confirm her theories. Because remember, if I recall, I think Shion had her scrapbooks in chapter 5 as well. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think she did. So, it's definitely not something to totally walk over, I guess. Yeah, I think it will. This chapter seems... Because really, I don't think there's a whole lot left that there is to answer, so they gotta answer something. I think... That's basically my thoughts on this. Mm, mm. Okay, let me just think. Is there any other, like, stones I want to overturn here real quick? Um... Um... Uh... I'll read these in a second. I just want to make sure I'm getting everything covered. Da-da-da-dun. Oh, fuck, what was it? I just lost what I was gonna say. Okay. Fuck. I just want to. There's like 2 or 3 things that I wanted to still. Oh, that was what it was. Okay. This is really about it in terms of theory. I don't think there's a whole lot more that I can just shoot into the dark about. So I'll read this. So, Rika's in a Groundhog Day type meme. Boom. Keiichi has some amount of memory bleed. Rika seems to remember everything, and seems like Rika's done this like a fuck ton of times. Keiichi only seems to remember the events, or at least maybe not even all the events of all the chapters we've done. Oh, wait, sorry. I gotta cut myself off here. Uh... I always forget how to spell committed. I don't know if it's... I knew it was 2 M's, motherfucker. Okay, that's the only last thing that I wanted to add. So again, memory bleed memes. This is like, I'm fucking certain about this. So, still leaning towards a religious cult in the village that sets off the disaster. Note, this could be also parasite or gas related, but Akasaka no Ishi, blah blah blah, we went over this. And hard to discern whether the volcanic gas thing was real or not. Kind of already went over that. I'm still leaning towards volcanic gas. Simplest explanation always wins. I don't think Rina was being entirely crazy. I don't think the parasite theory is too crazy, and I think it fits very well with the meme behind the syringe. Could be that it is too perfect of an explanation because it fits too well. Excuse me. So in that case, run down that dialogue tree that maybe, this was written post hoc because it fits so well, and that's why. Again, same thing. The syringe is confusing. It fits perfectly with the parasite theory. Definitely, though, we've seen it work on Rika in Chapter 5. We have first-hand evidence of that happening, okay? And we can somewhat infer its use on Tomotage in all chapters, as well as Keiichi in Chapter 1. I guess the other thing that we need to know... it's not how you use a semicolon. This is the other question, I guess. If Tomotage was killed by a group of people, as posited in pretty much every chapter so far, if we were to assume Takano's involvement, who else was present? I'm just going to leave that here because I don't have an answer for that. I think Rika definitely. I'll just put that outside of Takano. I think Rika has to be involved in Tomotake's death in some fashion. Maybe she just... maybe not, though, because the way she talks kind of sounds like she was trying to prevent it. Okay, that's what we're going to leave it at. So I'll read this here. We're going to go from here, because the rest is kind of... So I still think Takano's the one who killed Tomotage, what I was talking about earlier, based on Chapter 3. She was transporting his body at some time when she came across Keiichi. Tomotage is definitely not as simple as he seems. He's using an alias, we know this for sure. Plus, there has to be some other reason why he dies every timeline, regardless of outstanding variables. There has to be some reason why he's killed. I don't believe Keiichi's hand-waving of some of the previous events, like saying Mion wasn't trying to inject him, or the food he ate didn't have needles in it, etc. I think he's on a massive dose of copium. Oops, I clicked out of it. I could be wrong, but I don't think the devs are going to hand-wave shit like that so quickly. Feels like kind of bad writing, and I don't think this has been badly written so far, so I reject that. I think in Chapter 3, when the body of Teppei went missing, after Keiichi killed him, very likely it was the same cause in Chapter 6 when the bodies of Teppei and Rina went missing, and I mean Rina is in Rina Mamiya. It was Mion doing a favor for a friend who, after finding out they had committed murder, decided to do them a solid and snatch up the body and hide it so it couldn't be found. And then outside of Takano, I think Rika has to be involved in Tomatake's death in some fashion. Now this is, I guess, an aside, so we could do like... She does talk in the fourth wall breaks in chapter 6. Or I should say, from the fourth wall breaks in chapter 6. It sounds like she was trying to prevent it, but hasn't found a way to do so, or hadn't found a way to do so. We know of her possession of the syringe in chapter 2, chapter 5, and in chapter 6, actually. Because she actually threatened to use it on Rina, I think. If he was killed by the syringe, she instantly becomes a high suspect. The question then becomes, why and how did she acquire the syringe? And then, I guess in brackets, are there more of them? Or is there only one, you know? Because we know for a fact, right? I'm actually going to remove this. There's definitely more of them. Because if Tomatake dies in the same method in every single chapter, it actually doesn't make any sense that there wouldn't be more. Because if Rika uses the one on herself in chapter 5 or whatever it is, it literally does not make sense if there's not another one. Because that means we would be turning one into two. Because my thinking is, let's say she only had one, right? Well, if she only had one, we saw her kill herself with it in chapter 5 when she was fighting Shion. So if that's the case, then Tomatake in that chapter should have died by a different method, but he didn't. He still died in the same method. So if that's the case, then, doesn't really make much sense. Hey, that's all though. I fucking blabbered for like an hour. But now we're gonna continue. Or I guess start. I don't know why it gives you a continue button, but usually they show up if you don't have one, but... Okay. Also gonna set up my document here so I can... Oh! The final truth. Okay, chapter 7. Take things more to heart. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll try. Difficulty is quite mild. Story introduces the unit inside and out, including all the actors. There's no longer a story. It's a public autopsy, so pretty much everything's going to be out in the open. So after this chapter, I should be able to put everything together. It's Samike. Baby cry? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so take it as truth, okay. Yo, it's God. What are you doing? I don't see you playing by yourself that often. All you could do before was nod to my questions. Since when do you have your own will? I'm glad. Okay, this is actually really loud. One sec. There we go. Oh, you know what it was? Because I didn't turn the music volume down. I was wondering why it was so loud, because I forgot to turn the music volume down. Okay, there we go. That should... it's actually still kind of rough. Okay, there we go. That should be... whatever. It should be fine. Turn my mic up a very tiny bit. I'm glad. I finally have a sister or a brother, whichever you are. I used to be in existence of nothingness, just like you. But one day I began to have my own identity, my own thoughts, and eventually my own body. So it's not a surprise to see you in possession of your own will. Welcome to this vast yet tiny world, my sister. You might be my brother, but let me call you my sister until I know for sure. This is an endless, eternal, and infinite world, but that doesn't mean it's boundlessly vast. I suppose you could describe it like a ring with a small diameter. While the ring is an eternal, endlessly looping world, that doesn't mean it contains infinite space. Yes, in short, this world is eternally sealed. The future is supposed to be an infinite weave of countless choices, yet for whatever reason our world always ends in death, so this is Rika. If I were to compare it to something, perhaps a maze of fate would be appropriate. Looping through the same moments forever, steadily grows harder and more dejecting, eventually producing something like me. Then as that draws further on, even one like you is born, and eventually this world may be filled with your sisters too. After that, we'll build a colony inside of it. Once we lose our interest in this maze, Rika Furude will disappear from this world. It looks like you still cling to this narrow world, Rika, though I lost interest long ago. Which is why I'm truly glad you were born for me to talk to. So what are you doing? Are you collecting fragments of memory? There's only 5 or 6 of them right now. It must still be fun for you, though. There used to be more fragments long ago. But one by one they disappeared into the darkness. Now, these are the only ones that remain clear. Oh, that's not how you're supposed to use it. See? Try and hold it up to the light. All of that is the life of Rika Furude, and its end. That one is... Oh. I remember that one. That's a world when Keiichi was cursed. Those fragments are like books to me, so I titled that one the Onikakushi chapter, so this is chapter 1. Let me open up my Steam on the side so I can see the titles here. Chapter 1, okay. Do you remember what happened in that one? Good. That makes things easier. In Onikakushi, Keiichi Maebara was consumed by the darkness. He couldn't accept the kind words of his friend He couldn't accept the kind words his friends offered him, and eventually beat them to death, not knowing their kindness. We were all killed after that anyway. Disaster. Boom. Writing this down. Da-da-da-da. Sorry, I'm just writing notes. Okay. Also, actually, I'm going to throw a pause on this real quick. Not because I want to pause this, but I actually want to check one other thing first here. There's one event that's been bothering me for a long time, and I actually totally just forgot about it, and I think it's kind of important to look back at it now, because it might shed some light on this. One sec. I'll open up a display capture here so you can see in a second. Highlights. We want the very first chapter. Right here. Let me switch to display capture real quick. This will take like a minute. Okay. I trusted her, but I'm starting to realize I only wanted to trust her because I refused to accept the truth. It was as if I was trying to convince myself in such a silly sobbing voice. And those tears, those making a mess of my face. The mechanical, repetitious sound finally stilled and everything fell silent. Only the cry of the cicadas remained, annoyingly loud, and yet I felt as if I could still hear her voice. But that's not possible. She's no longer speaking. The only one crying is me. She never cried. Even when she repeated those words over and over, she never expressed any emotion because there was none to show. This sounds like it's talking about Rika. If she had no tears to shed for me, then I shouldn't need to shed any for her. Yeah. I still wanted to believe I hadn't been split apart. That's enough, right? Inside me, an inner voice whispered gently. My spirit had suffered enough, and countless times I'd wavered over whether I should just throw the battered thing away, except I've stubbornly refused to do that, haven't I? I'd feel better if I just threw it away, even knowing that I chose to believe, didn't I? Only I can understand that painful struggle. I didn't mean to skip that. I've tried more than enough. No. So isn't it all right just to take the easy way out? It sounds like him. Maybe he becomes aware. I'm sorry. I've been dropping a lot of frames. I think Twitch is having a little bit of a stroke today. It sounds like this is Keiichi saying that he doesn't want to keep doing like a loop. I'm leaving it behind with her, like flowers by a grave. Even though you can't feel your right arm, lift it up. Yeah, this is talking about Rika for sure. Because now this seems, because initially to me I thought that this was oh god, wait, this is gonna do an endless loop, I think, because of, yeah, it is. Let me hide display capture. Dude, I'm dropping frames like mad. Holy shit. To me, it sounds as though that was talking about Rika. I'm also gonna put that down here because I've been meaning to look back at that scene for a while now. Okay, I might have to restart the stream. The frame drops are actually pretty brutal. I don't want to restart the stream, but it's pretty fucking bad right now. So yeah, one sec. I'm gonna reboot it. Okay, we're back. Hopefully less frame drops this time. Okay. Might be a bit ambiguous, but I think it's hinting pretty hard at Rika, at least in my eyes. Okay, let me unmute the game. We'll get back to this. Okay. That fragment is the Minagoroshi chapter. Shion Sonozaki was cursed in that one. She killed many people out of revenge for her boyfriend's disappearance. He went missing in 1982. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Rika worked so hard, but she was captured at the end and was tortured to death. Well, not actually. Rika killed herself. Oh, no, so she was tortured in chapter 2 and killed in... Oh, okay. Because she knew how it was going to turn out. Okay, that makes sense. The fragment over there, I'll write that down, but I mean, we kind of already figured out what's happening in the... Okay. That fragment over there is called the Higurashi chapter. Fuck, I can't do Japanese words that are long. Satoko's uncle came back and locked her up inside her house. That was the worst world of all. There was nothing Rika was able to do in that world. Whenever Satoko's uncle comes back, Rika usually just gives up on that world. Fortunately, Satoko's uncle doesn't come back that frequently. That one is called the Sumi Horoboshi chapter. Holy fuck, dude, these words are just too long. That's chapter 6, I think. Rika was there until just a moment ago. Rina was possessed in that world. It was pretty exciting to see her take over the whole school. It surprised me to learn that Keiichi Maebara had a memory of the other worlds just like we do. It was pretty amazing, but then again, most of us have some kind of memory like that. We all have an imaginary world within us, some idea of what would have happened if you did things differently. It's like the strange feeling you get when you do something for the first time, but it feels like you've done it before. Deja vu. Everyone has a memory of an imaginary world in their mind, but the memory is not always that clear. So I think this is them kind of confirming what I was saying. He doesn't have a pure view of Okay. You are special enough to be able to see through those fragments of memory. It's probably very difficult for you to understand how special you really are. You were born into a world where it's a natural thing for you to see these fragments. I was originally born in the normal world. I didn't know until recently that I could collect these fragments of memory. You grabbed those fragments just because you could, but I didn't know how to do that for a long time. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not interested in hearing my story. Huh? What's wrong? What are you curious about? Oh. You're curious as to why so many different incidents occur in the same world. It's like a butterfly effect. Very interesting, isn't it? Why do you think that's the case? Let's think about it together. Thinking is the first step towards playing a game. The main character among Rika's group of friends is Keiichi Maebara. In Onikakushi, he was possessed by suspicion and killed Rina Ryugu and Mion Sonozaki. If that was an inevitable event, he would be killing them in every world. Exactly, but he doesn't. That's why I was talking about Tomitake doing this. In other words, what Keiichi Maebara did in Onikakushi was not inevitable. Indeed. This is why I was saying, and I've said this before, my understanding initially when I was playing through this game was that it's only the 5th year events that diverge, and almost everything prior is the same. Now, it sounds like what they're about to say is that's not the case, and that Tomitake is the only person where that happens. But I'm just going to explain my initial thinking, was that we were going to play through this multiple timelines over and over, and that each chapter we would learn about prior conditions that happened before the 5th year that would lead to certain things happening. Because this was why I said in what's it called, after chapter 5 I was confused and I was like, doesn't really make sense, because this is kind of where I thought the game was going, sort of didn't happen anymore. It's kind of still that, but not really. But what I was saying is that at the end of chapter 5 I kept saying, well, if you have all these preconditions that always happen that potentially necessitate future events, my question would be, why is Shion not a killer in every timeline? Because if we look at chapter 2 and we assume that what's-his-face, Satoshi, goes missing in every timeline, which is what they're saying here, is that potentially that's not the case. But they're saying that, if Satoshi goes missing in every timeline, that sets up the conditions for Shion to become a murderer. However, what they're saying is that it might not always happen that Shion acts on those things that happen and turns into a murderer. So even though the preconditions are there, the prerequisites for her to become a murderer are there, she doesn't always act on them. So that's what they're saying about inevitable events that are happening. And I'm assuming what they're going to say next here is that the only inevitable thing is Tomitake dying. It's Keiichi Maebara's role. Never mind. If Keiichi Maebara was someone with a naturally suspicious heart, he would take the same actions in every world. But that didn't happen. Let me make sure Okay, sorry, just making sure I understand this. It's rare for him to exhibit the kind of rage he displayed in Onikakushi. In other words, even though something might seem inevitable in one world, that may not be the case if you compare it to a different one. Okay. Uh... Sorry, I'm just making sure I write this down in my notes so it's very clear. And frames are dropping again. Fuck me. They didn't drop that many that time, though. Okay. If something really is inevitable, it will happen for sure in every life. That's what true inevitability is like. It's very important that you know that. When you compare the different worlds, what's common among all of them is the truth. Understand? Like I said, what seems inevitable in one life could just be a random event in another. The club activities that Mion Sonozaki suggests are a good example. Yes, I actually brought this up when we were playing. That even in timelines where everything is the same, sometimes the events of the club are different. Because I had a huge fucking bender over this at the start of Chapter 6 when they were doing the water gun fight. And I had a huge bender over it again when it was in... Oh god, what chapter was it? I think it was Chapter 3. It was whatever... I think it was Chapter 3. I don't remember because it's been a while now. But in one of them, we had the cooking contest, the curry competition. And again, like I'm sure if you care enough, you can go find it. I don't remember what 2 chapters it was. But I kept trying to pinpoint the starting date of each chapter. Like, how much time has passed since we actually start controlling the characters. And again, there was one of them. Oh, no, it was in Chapter 3 and Chapter 2, because I was saying, initially, again, before we knew that the Mion-Shion switch was happening, I was wondering if whether or not Keiichi not giving the doll to Mion had happened already. That's what I was wondering. And I knew that the curry competition happened after that event. And in the timeline that we were in, Chapter 3, if I recall, when you pick up, the curry competition has already happened. And so I was thinking, like, oh shit, that means that the doll giving event has already happened, which means that now we're just on Chapter 2 again, but of course then the events played out so differently, and then I'm like, well, what the fuck? Why didn't Mion become a killer? Of course we knew it was Shion at that time. If Mion had a strong inclination toward playing certain games, you would be playing them in every world. But in reality, you participate in different activities in most of them. That means that the games they play in club are randomly decided by Mion. Okay. We know that now because we've been through so many different lives. Sorry. Sorry, I'm just writing this down so I can remember if I look back on this. Okay, sorry. I'm making sure I'm being very thorough in my notes so that I get everything. I'm actually sort of impressed that I remember so much. We know that now because we've been through many different lives. Those who only live in one world can't see if the event in question is inevitable or random. Those who only live once can't predict what's going on in Mion Sonozaki's mind, but we can. Although the activities are random, Mion Sonozaki calls us together for the club meeting almost every day in every life. I can see that Mion holds a strong will towards having the club meeting. Yeah, she's best girl, what do you mean? Mion always wants to play with the other club members, but she doesn't know what to play, see? We can read Mion Sonozaki's mind just by simply examining these fragments. With this alone, we can see part of who Mion Sonozaki really is. The best girl in the game. Let me talk a bit more about Keiichi Maebara. For those who only live once, YOLO, the world of the Onikakushi chapter is nothing but a story where Keiichi suffered mysterious hallucinations and beat his friends to death. For them, there's nothing beyond that fact. We, however, can compare different fragments and find out something they could never see. As a result, we know that the murder of his friends was not inevitable. I told you that just earlier. In fact, while there are about 5 or 6 pieces in front of you, he only kills his friends in one of them. True. That means we can roughly conclude that the possibility Keiichi Maebara triggers that tragedy is less than 20% and is almost a fluke. This means that amongst the countless worlds, Keiichi Maebara causing the tragedy is an unimportant factor. Now, you can find the common thread. Now, can you find the common thread to be drawn from here? My, you found it already. No wonder you were born in this world. You're quick to learn the knack for playing with building blocks. I didn't figure that out for a while. I was born in the normal world, so I could only see things from a single world's perspective. So, no, maybe I was kind of right when I'm dropping frames again. Dude, Twitch is just having a shitter today. But I guess I was kind of right when I was talking about you have to extrapolate from the multiple timelines to figure out, what is constant and what's not. Didn't exactly phrase like that. I'm being a bit generous to my past self here, okay? But that's basically what we're doing. Sorry, the stream might be a bit choppy. I guess it doesn't really matter because we're playing a VN. But when frames drop, the stream's going to get a little bit choppy. Maybe the audio gets fucked. But we should be fine for the most part. I just don't know why this fucking server's been so bad for so long. I was too obsessed with the fact that Keiichi Maebara caused the tragedy, so I had trouble finding it. Right, that's exactly right. You see it? The Onikakushi, Utanagashi, Miyakashi, and Sumi Horiboshi chapters all have something in common. Someone in the group becomes violent because of dark and paranoid thoughts. That actually is true. Chapter 1, Keiichi. Chapter 2, Shion. Chapter 3... Fuck, what? I guess if you want to say Satoko, but that's kind of a... Dude, holy fuck, the frame drop is ridiculous. Oh my god, I've dropped 5% of my frames, and it's not network either. This is all server side. One sec here. This is wild. Like, this is more than usual. I gotta check to make sure I'm not downloading something I didn't know. Because this is a pretty monstrous amount of frames to be dropping. You don't just drop fucking... Oh, it didn't say chapter 3? Oh, because I don't know the titles. Oh, Sumi Horiboshi was chapter 6, okay. Miyakashi, what was Miyakashi? It was chapter 5, okay. Chapter 1, Keiichi. I guess 2 and 5, I guess they're including Shion in that. And chapter 6 was Rina. In each world, either Keiichi Maebara, Shion Sonozaki, or Rina Ryugu became violent as their delusions grew stronger. Keiichi Maebara, Shion Sonozaki, and Rina Ryugu are all my close friends, but they were all born and raised differently. The only common factor is that they all live in Hinamizawa. I just said it not too long ago, though. When we peer through these fragments of multiple worlds, the constant phenomena become our facts, and the chance phenomena hold little meaning. In other words, the unrelated individual culprits, exactly, are not all that important, yeah, because we know that they're not, like, if Keiichi's the culprit in chapter 1, Woohoo. But it doesn't really tell us anything about the overall mystery we're trying to figure out. To go further, the violence of their crimes also bears no meaning. Keiichi Maebara beat his friends to death, Shion Sonozaki killed the central people of the three families, and Rina Ryugu took over the school. They were all different. There's nothing in common there. In fact, the very, very important truth is that while the culprit and crimes are decided at random, their process of growing paranoid until they resort to violence is always constant. Okay. Okay, the suspect changes every time, but the process does not. After comparing the different worlds, this is the truth I found. This is one truth that is common to all the worlds of Hinamizawa. The rule is that a random person becomes violent under the influence of paranoid thoughts. This is Rule X. Fuck, dude, my document's fucking up here. Okay. Keiichi Maebara, Shion, Rina Ryugu, pieces with no particular connection, have the potential to succumb to that rule with random probability. I don't know what the probability is that those pieces will be ensnared by that rule. Perhaps there is some rule to that too. Is it because these three are all close in age, or is it because they all live in Hinamizawa? Well, we're not detectives or police officers. This is not something that a small girl like us, Rika Furude, can easily figure out. At least we know now, or at least we now know, that there's a mysterious rule in the world of Hinamizawa. People who only live in one world have no way of knowing that. I'm proud of myself for figuring that out. I guess for you it's not particularly surprising though. Huh? What did you say? That's right. If something is common among all worlds, that means it's fated to happen. Some events quickly come to mind, don't they? Yeah. Right. Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano are always killed in those worlds. On top of that, they are murdered in exactly the same way in every world. In other worlds, unlike our previous rule with its variability, their murders are thoroughly planned out by someone with a strong will. Exactly, that's what I was saying. It has to be someone with a strong conviction or a good reason for doing it, because again, like they were just stating previously, we can use Mion's games as an example, right? Mion doesn't have a strong conviction one way or the other about what game they play. She just wants to play games. So it's why the game varies so much, because she doesn't actually have a very particular lean one way or the other depending on what she wants to play. However, somebody that is killing Tomitake and Takano has a very strong conviction and probably a very good reason for doing so. So, I'm also going to put this down. Okay. After all, they are always murdered regardless of who falls to Rule X. Well, this was something that we picked up on early. That regardless of whoever was doing the killing in the chapter, they still die, so it's somebody outside of whoever is committing the killing. Therefore, there's another rule to these worlds. A rule that says Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano will get killed on the night of Watanagashi. Let's call it Rule Y. Okay, well, I get there can't be that many more rules because you decided to start at X. Don't you see how funny this is? Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano are killed in every world, right? Every time, the character who gets cursed always thinks that their deaths have something to do with the danger that's awaiting them. The fact that someone turns violent, Rule X, and Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano's death, Rule Y, are supposed to be two independent rules, but in effect, Rule Y influences Rule X, so they're not actually independent, they're dependent. But they all tend to link them together. Of course, one could say that's how they became ensnared in the spell of paranoia leading them to violence to begin with. But do you think in their paranoia that they notice someone is trying to lead them to link those rules together? Yes. Whoever the piece leading them is, they are the one making this stage called Hinamizawa very complicated. You should have noticed at least two suspicious people. Do you know who I'm talking about? Irie is probably one of them. Maybe Oishi is the other? I don't really... Irie is like the only one who I've been... Oh, well, I don't know what they... Fuck. I got one, I guess, but... Mio's suspicious in the sense that, like, I wouldn't call her suspicious. She's just very... She's like a wild card. I don't know if suspicious is the word I would use, but, to be fair, if I do open my notes, I did have Mio at like an 11 out of 10 suspicion. So maybe. I don't know. When you compare our previous fragments, the role of the piece known as Kurado Oishi becomes clear. He's a detective who is retiring this year, and he's in a hurry to solve the mystery of the series of deaths in Hinamizawa. After he retires, he'll move away from the village. That's why he's desperate to solve the case before he has to leave Hinamizawa. Why is he so obsessed with the serial murders in Hinamizawa? It's fair, but that's right. Well, because, yeah, it was his friend that died in the first killing. That's right. It's because of the first murder involving the manager of the construction site. That was his mahjong buddy. The victim was Oishi's close friend. You will see that if you look at the Himatsubushi chapter. I can't say these words, so I'm sorry if I butcher them. Oishi was there when the dam conflict was at its peak. He saw how the Sonozaki family took control of the Onigafuchi Guardians, and he believed that the Sonozaki family was pulling the strings behind the whole incident. That's why he always suspected that the Sonozaki family was behind the series of mysterious deaths, regardless of the evidence or lack thereof. His personal, biased belief, combined with his credibility as a police detective, affected the pitiable victims of persecution complexes in each world. As a result, the pitiful victims of Rule X come to accept the Sonozaki family as the identity of the unknown force their paranoia seeks, which in Chapter 4 we kind of found out, not really the case. Shion Sonozaki's case was the most conspicuous one in that matter. So yes, if this piece Oishi didn't intervene, then perhaps the victims of Rule X wouldn't have resorted to such violence. So the role his piece plays is to indirectly cause the tragedy. Okay. Broishi and maybe not Broishi? My other question would be, though, and I guess this could get answered as well. Why is it that only Shion, Keiichi, and Arena are the ones that get hit by Rule X, or at least those are the ones that we've seen so far? My question would be why? Like, why the fuck is it just them? There has to be some better reason for why them specifically. Because why isn't it just like some old fuck who's, not a named character? But of course, we don't need to get too deep into that. I'm sure it'll be answered one way or another. I don't know who named him this, but Oyashiro's servant is the perfect nickname for Oishi. Yeah, it was the messenger of Oyashiro is what they were calling him earlier. The other suspicious person is Mio Takano, definitely. One would assume the only role of her piece is to amuse herself with research into Onigafuchi's dreadful history and to take pleasure in scaring others with those tales. Not necessarily, though, because I even pointed this out earlier in this stream. I'm pretty sure she gave her scrapbooks to both Rina and to Shion. Don't know if... She also scared Keiichi in Chapter 1, but she didn't have as much of like a meddling effect as she did in the future chapters. she's definitely... However, just like Oishi, she also gives them the idea that the Sonozaki family is behind all the mysterious incidents that happen in the village. She interfered the most with Rina, yeah, definitely. For Mio, Rina was the perfect prey, grasping at straws to try and identify the force she suspected. Ironically, however, Mio Takano always ends up getting killed at the end. If she had survived and seen Rina take over the school, she would have laughed long and loud. Now you have realized that these two pieces and the roles they fulfill have their own rule too. They talk about the Sonozaki family, and the listeners always believe them. That's Rule Z. Okay, so we'll put that down. Make sure I get this. Okay. You should already have an answer to this mystery in your fragments on hand. The fact is that the Sonozaki family always acts, but yes, they aren't. It's a matter of bluffing, makes them seem more influential, yada yada. We already know this. Whether they're involved or not. They always pretend to be the villains in order to make sure that people continue to fear them, because fear equals respect in a weird way. As a result, the villagers have believed that the Sonozaki family has been pulling the strings ever since the damn conflict ended. Kurata Oishi and Mio Takano were simply fooled by that rule. Actually, the whole village is fooled by it. Still, the more I think about it, the stranger the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa seems to me. Do you know why? Nearly all the fragments of memories we have here are from 1983. Exactly, and I said this earlier, almost every event prior from 79 up until 82 is exactly the same. Almost all the events happen in exactly the same way. I can't say that it's for sure that it happens that way every single time, but we know for a fact that the method of death of all the victims of the string of mysterious deaths, with the exception of the 5th year, is always the same. But it's likely that interpreting these murders as serial is simply a result of falling victim to Rule Z, believing that the Sonozaki family is pulling the strings behind everything. In short, they may be trying to conflate those multiple crimes, which each happen for different reasons, into one big case. This is also true. Just because of the time period, people tend to want to loop them together because they all happened on that specific day, but they could all be carried out for their own individual reasons. So for instance, the guys at that day on work might have just fucking really been pissed off at the foreman and decided to kill him on that day. Maybe, Watanagashi, we know, at least for, what's his fucking face? Satoko's older brother, Satoshi. The specific reason why he did it there was because he could get Satoshi out of the house and he'd be alone with his aunt. Because Teppei had moved out in that timeline. So that would be the perfect time to do it. Same reason why Keiichi also did it in Chapter 3. Or maybe didn't do it, because he's sort of a weird... Chapter 3 is a big fucking question mark. Well, I have no way of discerning the truth from the fragments here. Still, perhaps something lies in one of them. Each case was supposed to have been solved individually after all. We don't know if that theory is sound or irrational, but it might, surprisingly, be an element we can't ignore. That reminds me, Shion said something intriguing in the Miyakashi chapter. That curse system she came up with. Do you remember that? Her theory was that the villagers believe they're allowed to kill an enemy of the village on the night of Watanagashi in the name of Oishiro's curse. Yes, she did say that. This is also kind of the vibe we got from Chapter 1. And that this foundation of murder is allowed on that night alone is the true identity of the curse. Since most of the fragments here are from 1983, there's nothing to back the validity of Shion's theory, but there are still interesting things about it. In other words, her theory is that the suspect is not the one who's committing the crime, it's the environment that's causing the murder. People in a single world tend to analyze a criminal's life to determine the process that led them to the crime, but her idea is different. Well, she's got a nature versus nurture meme going on. Like, how much of it can you blame on the person's individual actions? How much can you blame on the environment for influencing their individual actions? The real crime is committed not by the criminals, but by the environment. In other words, it may only be happenstance that Robert A committed the crime, and the environment of poverty may have created Robert B, or perhaps even Robert C. A may not even be a criminal in another world. Therefore, the real criminal is not A, but the environment that creates A, B, or C. And well, while people in a single world may be able to reach such an idea, the widespread desire to place blame commonly causes A to be lynched by society while the environment that gave rise to A goes ignored. Base. This is a political commentary right now. We won't get into the politics of this statement, but this is true and based. Did I confuse you? I'm sorry. Perhaps that example is actually harder for you to understand, or harder to understand for you. It's easy for me to see it like that because I'm from the normal world. Let me make it simple for you. The culprit behind the tragedy in many worlds isn't individuals like Keiichi Mibara or Shion, but the environment. So Rule X is the true culprit at fault. You're earning good marks if you can grasp that, even if we don't know the identity of Rule X. Well, yeah, because again, it's just like we were saying. The only reason why these people are murderers is because of the situation they're put in Hinamizawa. If we transplant Kate, now we can't know because we would have to see an infinite amount of timelines, or, a very large amount. If we were to transplant Keiichi into a different environment from birth, or just into a different environment, maybe, let's say Keiichi never moves to Hinamizawa, minus the, gun shooting incident or whatever. We can't say what would happen with him because, it seems very crazy. Oh, I just turned on my TV by accident. Seems pretty wild that he would ever become a murderer, given stuff like that. So they're just saying, it's not actually. Put this down. It's kind of a boring rule, but. This is like the longest chapter I'm ever gonna get through. It's gonna be like 2 hours on this chapter. If you can grasp the 3 rules governing this stage called Hinamizawa, rules X, Y, and Z, then you're earning very good marks. Well, I think I can. So as long as you understand those rules, then even if this is your first experienced world, you should easily find the truth without distraction. See? Isn't it fun? Merely 3 simple rules are interacting on the stage, creating a kaleidoscope of different worlds. This is probably a very unusual case. In other locations, you shouldn't be able to see such extreme variation even after looping through several worlds. Keeps me entertained just staying here and watching these worlds revolve. Anyway. There's one more fact we can understand from these fragments of worlds. This is the biggest problem we, Rika Furudes, are facing. She dies every time, yeah. She dies. Her death date changes slightly, but I think it is, at the very latest, a week after. It's as if June 1983 is a dead end for her. Worse, there's no randomness to it. It's guaranteed to happen. In other words, it's the same pattern as the deaths of Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano. It's following the exact same Rule Y. So we'll put that into Rule Y, I guess. Tomitake Jiro and Takano Mio, that's the first time they've swapped his name around. Or no, never mind, they swap both of them, are always murdered on the night of Watanagashi. Furude Rika's date of death is not always the same, but she's always dead by the middle of June. Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano are probably attacked on their way home, so that's why it happens on the same night. But for Rika Furude, it's different. She takes different actions in every world, and her lifestyle is very unpredictable. For that reason, the day of her death is not always the same. Yeah, we saw that. However, she always dies in June because a similar powerful conviction vows to kill her too. So can we assume that the same Rule Y, killing them, is also the rule behind her death? Is the same person? We can't say that at all. I don't know if it's the same person, but it's highly likely the same rule. Well, it's definitely the same rule. I mean, if she dies in everything and they die in everything, it seems that they follow the same rule. Is it the same person or the same organization? The same views, the same goals? Rika's most important goal is to escape her deadly fate, but it doesn't mean that she just wants to leave the village and survive. She wants to live happily in the village. All of her friends must also be happy too. Rika wants the true ending, okay? That's Rika's happy future, the ideal future she hopes for. It's tragic that we can't realize such a simple desire no matter how many times we repeat this. Though it's a tragedy we're only able to perceive because we're beings capable of comparing the fragments from different worlds. By the way, I have some interesting information. While Rika is almost always killed by Rule Y, have you noticed that she's killed by Rule X in some worlds? This is true. She was killed by Shion in Chapter 2. And, well, of course, this too. Well, technically, Minagoroshi, she killed herself. But definitely in the Watanagashi chapter, though. Rika Furude committed suicide, but you can say she was more or less... fuzzy edges. We'll accept it, I guess. In other words, this is a blunder for Rule Y. Rule Y is trying to kill Rika with a strong desire to achieve some aim. But she was killed before that as a result. So Rika actually is not a part of Rule Y, then. She absolutely isn't. This is like a Rule Y prime. It's the second part. Okay, sorry, this is like a lot of writing, so, we'll go over this and we'll make sure we understand it later, but that might have caused them to show some disturbance. If Rule Y's objective is simply to bury Rika, then that's not a problem, but if they have some objective beyond that, then they might show up as some other phenomenon. Perhaps the Watanagashi and Minagoroshi chapters have something in common, something that doesn't happen in the other worlds. The disaster doesn't happen in those chapters. We don't know that. Exactly. We don't know that. But we'll put that down. If Rika does not... So this almost for certain, kind of guarantees that it is someone that's doing the disaster. This isn't something that's just naturally occurring. Because if it was something that was, again, fated to happen, it would happen in Chapter 2 and Chapter 5 regardless of how Rika was killed. And as they're saying here, if the condition was just that Rika was going to be killed, right, then this also doesn't make any sense. Because if the condition was just for Rika to die, then the disaster would also still happen in Chapter 2 and Chapter 5, but it doesn't. It very clearly happens for a certain reason, and I think the thing is, there is some religious element to it. Again, Rika's supposed to be, Oyashiro. Rika's supposed to be, I actually brought this up, and the problem is, because this game is so long, I don't know where I can point to prove this, but I did say at one point in this game, because I brought up a point saying that whenever Rika dies, a great disaster will befall Hinamizawa. Now, the only thing is that I brought up, if that was the case, Rika died. I actually, again, too much footage. I don't expect you to go through it, but somewhere, some way, I did say that in Chapter 2 and Chapter 5, Rika was killed, but the disaster didn't happen. So if the disaster was fated to happen just because she dies, it doesn't always happen because it didn't happen in those chapters. I think I might have even said it earlier in this stream, but I don't remember. And I don't know where to point, but I know I said it at some point. I can probably even find it in my fucking notes if I look hard enough. You'll just have to trust me on this one, okay? Whenever I upload this on YouTube eventually, all the fucking parts, it'll be on there as proof. ... Or, by any chance, do you know what happened? Since I'm Rika Furude, I only know of events during Rika's life. You, on the other hand, are a special existence who was born in a superior world. Is there anything that didn't happen in the Watanagashi and Minagoroshi chapters that happened in all the other worlds after Rika's death? If you know anything, then that must be another truth behind Rule Y. The memories I have here are all mainly about the chaos brought about by Rika's friends, that is Rule X. Okay. But its foundation, Rule Z, and the obvious hostility common among all worlds, Rule Y, are what I believe to be the true rules governing this stage. If so, then Rika's path is a thorny one. She needs to fight Rule Y in order to survive. Unless she defeats it, she has no future because, yeah, if she can't beat Rule Y, there's basically two ways she beats Rule Y. She either gets killed in Rule X, or she beats it. And to win her own happiness, she must also beat Rule X, exactly, to win her friend's safety. So as long as that's undefeated, one of Rika's precious friends may be led to tragedy. If that happens, then even should Rika survive, she wouldn't have the happy future she hopes for. She also may have to defeat Rule Z, just as Sonozaki Shion faced it in Miyakashi. So long as Rule Z remains, then even if she escapes 1983, it's possible another tragedy may lie waiting in 1984. It's extremely likely that Rule Z is the breeding ground for Rule X. Hinamizawa's fundamental belief that the Sonozaki family is behind everything, and the custom that anything can be misconstrued as the curse, may indirectly be the root of all evil here. People are not surprised to see somebody die on the night of Watanagashi. That type of thinking is keeping the curse alive in Hinamizawa, where it causes even more tragedy. It's Rule Z reinforcing itself. It's a positive feedback loop. Rules X, Y, and Z. These are the three rules that hunt Rika down in the eternal June of 1983. They are all tough obstacles. We didn't even figure out these three common rules until recently. Were you aware of them? I mean, I wasn't. I was indirectly aware of them, okay? And I'll give myself some pats on the back, but I did not formalize it like this. I've tried so hard in the past to break these rules, but I was never successful. However, a miracle happened in the Sumi Horoboshi chapter. Which one was that? That was chapter 6. Oh, Keiichi's memory bleed. Duh. Keiichi Mibara was able to recognize a small fragment from another world by chance, and he beat Rule X. In the end, Rika was still killed that night by Rule Y, though. But still, one rule was defeated. That was a huge leap forward. So I guess they're saying there that in Rule X, he dispelled the darkness that was, enshrouding him? I don't know, that's weird. Rika knew there were three common rules amongst the worlds, but she could never break any of them. Eventually, she gave up and lost interest in the worlds. That's how I was born. However, she's different now. She learned something valuable from Keiichi Mibara. But the rules can be broken with a strong enough will to fight. If she can break all three rules, Rika Furude will be freed from her eternal prison. She doesn't have much time left, though. Rika has traveled through many worlds. Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental, because she's just going fucking bonkers. Mentally, she is extremely old, and her soul is starting to turn into something different. In the end, she'll probably lose the ability to experience singular worlds. She's already showing those signs, and eventually her memories from the parallel worlds will mix together, ultimately causing her derangement and the loss of Rika Furude's soul. Then she will disappear. That means that you and I are going to be left in this dark world. The fragments of our memories will gradually disappear, and we will be left alone in the eternal darkness. Eventually, we will die. Rika Furude is aware of that. She knows that her mental lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. Hanyu is also losing her power. Who the fuck is that? She can't rewind through years of time like she used to. Her power has decreased so much that she can barely rewind 1 month of time. Actually, she can only rewind a few weeks. In the next world, she should only have about 2 weeks of time. Rika Furude is going to try to break all three rules in just those... I'm guessing Hanyu is another person here, one of these other entities, these intelligence or whatever, that's the one that's been rewinding time. That's sort of odd. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I tried to climb my way up from there. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I continued to climb even when I fell and injured myself. I finally realized the higher I climb, the more pain I feel when I fall. When my curiosity toward the world and my physical pain become equal, I finally understood the meaning of the frog in the well. Depicting him as a real... Oh, that was just what they... This is work of fiction. Yeah, this is what they said about Keiichi at the end. Dude, I'm such a kappa. I played too much Dota, and every time I see the ending of these Japanese words, I just think Go Roche. Boom! I felt no gravity in the darkness and lost all my senses as a result. I banged my head on the floor with a dull thud. Seeing stars behind my eyelids, I curled into a ball while holding my head in pain. Are you okay? Did you get hurt? Rika, please say something. I had no idea why I was in this situation, but as soon as I heard their voices from the top of the cliff, I realized that I must have fallen. I remember. I was playing behind the shrine with the rest of the club members. I got too excited and started doing something very dangerous. Then the tree branch broke. That's how I fell off the cliff. My body started to ache all over. I remembered how I fell, but I still felt strange for some reason. I couldn't remember what I was doing. No, it was more that I couldn't remember who Rika Furude was before I fell off the cliff. So I guess this was why Rika kind of had like a weird split personality meme. It's because she doesn't even view herself as like one individual anymore. So it's not really too surprising, I guess. It's like I got a notification. What is it? Oh. Never mind. I heard Hanyu's panicked voice. What the fuck? Who are you? This is the girl that's rewinding time, but who are you? I looked behind me and saw Hanyu standing there with a sacred, scared look on her face. Hanyu? Ouch. What just... Oh, can Rika just see this girl that we normally can't see? What just happened? You were playing with everyone and fell off the cliff. Are you okay? I don't care about that, Hanyu. What day is it today? What year and what month is it? I always ask this question first when something like this happens. She finally realized that I was asking the same old question. It's June of 1983. The Watanagashi Festival is next week, so... Oh dear. I only have that much time left. This is the best we can do. Hanyu muttered regretfully. It was the middle of June 1983. If this really was the best she could do, I had no choice. I couldn't complain. I gradually started to remember more things. If this is June of 1983, I see. I was killed again. After Rina surrendered to the police, all of the classmates were given checkups at the clinic. Oh, so this is going to be the recount of stuff we didn't see. I didn't get hurt, so I was sent back home after they determined that I had no injuries. My memory started getting vague from that point on. Yeah, of course it did. Common characteristic of my violent deaths. When my life is taken away violently, the memory before death becomes vague with static. It's like a violently ripped roll of toilet paper. That example should make it easy to understand, even if it's uncouth. That's why I have no clear memory of what happened and how I died that night. I only have vague memories. Like someone covered my mouth with a handkerchief or something and I passed out. You got chloroformed. That's about the only thing that I remember, and only vaguely. I'm not even sure if it really happened. The only thing I know for sure is that I was attacked on my way home, or possibly after I got there, and that I was murdered suddenly. I don't know who killed me or how I was killed. I'm glad that at least I don't remember the horrific ending to my life every time it happens. Because of my experiences, I think I now understand why ghosts wander around this world not knowing that they died so suddenly. If it's a death from a long-lasting illness, people tend to remember that they were sick. They can kind of assume that they died after being sick for such a long time. When your memory is violently disrupted like mine, it can get quite confusing. When I first experienced this, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or not. I even thought that I hit my head hard and lost my memory. I needed to organize things before I get too confused. My name is Rika Furude. People look at me in a special way, but it's not a big deal for me. All I want is a happy life where I can play around with my best friends. I can't remember how long I've been living just for the sake of obtaining that simple happiness. This panicked girl here is named Hanyu. I'm the only one who can see her. Okay, so thank you. Getting to the brass tacks. Perhaps she only exists inside of my head. At any rate, Hanyu is invisible and can generally only interact with me. There'll be a long story if I try to explain Hanyu's existence, so I won't be doing that right now. Besides, I don't even know how I should talk about her. She's been there since I was born, and her existence is a natural thing for me. I saw everyone running up the gravel road towards me. They're my important and lovable best friends. One group's active, boisterous, I keep misreading. Our group's active, boisterous, and we get serious about doing stupid things. I'm never bored when I'm around them, and I love them very much. Rika, are you okay? Did you sprain your ankle? Where did you get hurt? Let this old man have a look at it. Thank you so much. I just got a bump on my head. I think all I got was a bump, at least. My injury wasn't as serious as everyone thought. When you hit your head, you still need to be cautious, even if you're fine for the moment. That's true. You should get the coach to check you out just in case. That is a good idea. Do you want me to go and get him? Yeah, we'll go ask somebody to use a phone and call him here. You don't need to do that. I'm totally fine. Absolutely not, Rika. You must be cautious. Satoko warned me with a stern voice. It really wasn't a big deal, but I decided to nod since Satoko was trying to be generous. She wasn't trying to boss me around or anything. She was only saying that because of how much she cares. Also, I just realized the conversations that Rika was having earlier was actually just her talking to Hanya. It wasn't her talking to Satoko. I've seen it before in the many different lives that I've been through. I have no doubt that she's really concerned about me. It's not just Satoko. Mion, Rina, and Keiichi are the same. They're all so nice to me, and they truly do care. Mion left to look for a phone. Rina also left with a towel, looking for the water tap. Satoko remained nearby, taking care of me with a worried face. And Hanyu was just standing there, still wearing a panicked look. Keiichi seemed to be panicked too, but he was trying not to show it. He was standing by me wearing a calm expression. Are you alright? I'm fine. It doesn't hurt anywhere. I'm glad you're not seriously injured. I was super worried. I wouldn't feel anything special about his words if this was a while ago. But at that moment when Rina took over the classroom, when she hurt Mion, Keiichi tried his best to save Rina even so. He was more reliable than I ever imagined from his normal behavior. He's usually an insensitive guy who hurts other people's feelings without noticing, but that's not his true self. He has a secret side. He's willing to sacrifice himself for other people. I was just observing that not too long ago. That's why I can honestly feel his generosity now. Now that I think about it, Keiichi regained a memory from another world the previous time around. Is it possible that he carries that memory in this world too? If that's the case, I have some hope. Hanyu and I are totally powerless. Hanyu is only like heir to everyone but me, and I'm just a little girl. There's only so much that we can do ourselves. But Keiichi's different. He changed the fate that I had once resigned myself to. He's somebody who may have the power to take me to my unseen future. If I can get Keiichi to understand me, he could be my hero. Perhaps I'm actually not expecting that much out of him. I just want someone to understand my struggle of being stuck in this maze. Keiichi, I spoke to him slowly. It had been a while since I felt so nervous. I hadn't felt this way since I started my endless life in 1983. As a witch, I normally would know what his response would be before even talking to him. As a witch, what the fuck? I often remain silent because I already know how pitiful the reply would be. But in that case, why was I so nervous now? Huh? Did you call me Rika? Hanyu gave me a disappointed look before I responded to Keiichi. Rika, I could tell what Hanyu was thinking too. The miracle wasn't going to happen. If miracles do happen, one could have happened many times in my other lives. But I've only seen one miracle before. The miracle that Keiichi gave me was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of miracle. Only if it happened again would it be a true miracle. I won't get out of this world just because I rolled 6 on the die once. I can't get out unless I get a miracle that's equivalent to getting 6 on the die 10 times in a row. Even that's not. And so I rolled 10 dice wishing that they'd all turn out to be 6. Keiichi. What is it? Are you hurt anywhere? He looked at me worriedly after I called his name twice. Keiichi, do you remember? I knew how sudden my question was. As I thought he would, he looked at me with a confused face. Huh? What are you talking about? I looked inside his eyes to see his true feelings. He should remember. He should know. Even though he doesn't have the memory, Keiichi experienced it. What is she referring to, Keiichi? Did you do something bad to her? You had better speak up. Keiichi, do you remember climbing up on the school roof? School roof? Keiichi, you climbed up there? I'm not asking you, Satoko. Do you remember, Keiichi? I did? I climbed on the roof. When? You must be mistaken somehow, Rika. I never climbed on the roof, and I don't even know how to get up there. Of course, you haven't experienced it in this world yet. But please tell me that you remember. I know you've never been up on the roof, but you should still remember doing it. You shouldn't be able to remember it, true, but you actually did once. You should be able to remember it once again. Perhaps you went up there to get a ball or something. Never. Have you been up there, Satoko? Unthinkable. I would get in such terrible trouble if I did something like that. But I bet it'd feel really good to take a nap up there. There's no way he would remember. If miracles could happen that easily, neither of us would be suffering like this, and they also wouldn't be miracles. Shut up. I knew that. I knew that he wouldn't remember. Our fate is already set in stone. We're like a pitiful cicada that dies after the summer festival. Shut up. As I stared at her fiercely, Hanyu realized that she had crossed a line. This might be a waste of time. The maze we're in might not have an exit. It might be an endless loop without a goal in place. We are trapped in this fate. I thought that Keiichi might be able to get me out of here. But that Keiichi I saw was truly a miracle. A momentary glimmer. The Keiichi of this world doesn't bear that same miracle. All the same, I'm not going to give up. Last time too, I gave up on fighting destiny. I realized Rina was beyond salvation, so I bid her farewell and forsook that world. That's such a weird word. Forsook? I would say like forsake, but that's not really a word either. Whatever, who cares? Keiichi fought and broke the cycle of fate. I should have worked harder with that Keiichi in that world. I could have broken this endless cycle together with him. Am I going to repeat this life, waiting for that miracle to happen again? I can't do that. I don't want to repeat the same life anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this world, my fate, and everything. I'm tired of getting murdered by destiny. Keiichi showed me a miracle. I should be able to do the same, too. I must fight. I must fight with all my remaining power. I was always fighting. I was fighting when I had more power, but I never made it. How can I expect to win this time? Still, I must fight. Keiichi taught me that fate can be shattered. I'm gonna fight one more time. I'm guessing that's the end of this chapter? Or... something close to it? Yep. To my granddaughter. I'm sorry for leaving you like this. I just need you to understand I'd rather take my own life than be fearful of how many days I have left to live. True. That's why I'm writing this letter to you. I can't stand the fear of being unable to leave behind a will while my life is prolonged, even as I lose my consciousness. In the end, there's nothing I can leave behind for you. I was unable to leave any of my achievements to this world. I was forgotten before I was dead. I leave this world a humiliated man, knowing that I had no appreciation from anyone. You must do better than me. Also, I just realized something. Is there a potential possibility that the footsteps this whole time have just been Hanyu? That's like the only thing I can think that would make any sense at all. Because I don't buy this Oyashiro dog shit. You must achieve something that your grandfather was never able to achieve. I don't mind what field you choose. You must leave your mark on this world. You must leave behind your achievements. You will eventually die someday. You will eventually turn to ashes. As a human being, that's your inevitable fate. But if you achieve a great success, you will live forever even after you depart. Those who live beyond their deaths are called gods. I wished to be one, but I was unable to do so. So in my place, you must become a god someday. Okay. It's very clear what they're insinuating towards, but not really saying a whole lot. I really don't think I'm going to have to do a lot of note-taking in this chapter, I'll be real with you. They kind of answered anything I would want to know at the start. There. You're all done. Irie withdrew the needle from Satoko's arm. The needle. Monka W? It must not have hurt much for the needle to be pulled out. Satoko kept her eyes closed in fear, thinking that the needle was still inside her arm. Satoko, you're all done, you know? Oh, Takano. Sheesh! What is this? What? Oh, it's finally over? As Satoko opened her eyes, she found that Irie was no longer sitting in front of her. Takano was wiping her arm with rubbing alcohol instead. I'm sorry, I'm putting this down because Monka W. Whenever I hear shots, right after I just said I wouldn't have to write anything this chapter. That's right, you're all done now. Dr. Irie is good with needles, unlike me. You didn't even notice he was finished. Don't touch that part of your arm for a while, okay? Also, try not to carry anything heavy. Fucking squirt blood out of your needle hole. Of course, I know that by now. Good for you, Satoko. I'll pat your head for you. It was nothing. There's nothing I did that would require you to pat my head. Not long ago, she would go into a panic when it was time for her to get her shot. The way she behaved today in itself is worthy of praise. Everyone in the room smiled, aware of that growth. Please give her the usual test, will you, Takano? Sure. Alright, Satoko, it's time for the quiz we always do. Your quiz is always quite difficult for me. Take it easy. If it's too difficult, you can just tell me that you don't know the answer. You don't have to think too hard, just tell me whatever comes to mind at the moment. Takano smiled at Satoko to ease her tension. Then she led Satoko to a desk in the back of the examination room. I hope Satoko gets better soon. I don't know if it's because of the heat, but Satoko has been showing negative symptoms since last month. The change of the seasons can affect her physically and emotionally. It's not a surprise that this thing is happening to her. I'm gonna see Irie and ask him how Satoko's doing. What are you gonna do, Hanyu? I'm gonna stay with Satoko. Thank you. I'll leave it to you. I'm calling my shot. I'm Babe Ruth, okay? The footsteps are Hanyu, no doubt. That's all I gotta say. It also makes sense considering in chapter 1 when Keiichi heard it, he said he thought that it was the presence of a girl. So, I am convicted. There you go, that's the answer. Hanyu went over to where Satoko was. Fortunately, I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. She won't be a distraction if she goes and observes Satoko's test. I, of course, would be a distraction like that. This is supposed to be a routine exam, but it seems like Takano is teasing her by giving her difficult questions. It would be pretty funny to observe how Satoko reacts to them. I'm a little jealous that Hanyu gets to watch everything without being a bother to Satoko. Irie was talking with 2 other staff members about Satoko's exam results. I walked up and joined them. Thank goodness. She seems to be improving. From what Irie was saying, her results must have turned out well. Irie, how is she? Don't worry, the results were good. I'll discuss this more with you 2 later. After ordering his staff to continue their work, Irie showed me some difficult paperwork and started explaining it to me. I guess we overreacted to the test results from last week. Her condition shifted dramatically because of the change in climate. Did she have a cold by any chance? It was one night recently that was fairly hot. Satoko was sleeping without her blanket and her stomach was exposed. She might have caught a cold that night. I don't know if that's how you catch colds, but... She was sleeping with her belly exposed. I poked her belly button, but she didn't wake up at all. Huh, sounds like fun. Please call me if that happens, you fucking creep. Okay, dude. I'm not reading that shit. That's why she caught a cold, huh? Rika, I can hear you. You had better put a blanket on me next time. You're in the middle of a quiz, Satoko. You need to concentrate. Irie, Hanyu, and I all laughed. Satoko went back to her test with a bitter look on her face. Irie began speaking to me in a softer voice. She's in remission. She has cancer? But her level is still L3 negative. She was and will continue to be in critical condition. She's never, ever gonna get better? Just like with anaphylaxis, her body will be conditioned to react severely even after the foreign chemical is out of her system. In other words, she'll never move below the level 3 stage. Or is she just like very allergic? Is that what they're saying? Whenever I hear remission, I just think cancer, but I guess it could just be... anaphylaxis. What the fuck is it called when you have an allergic reaction? It might be anaphylaxis. Yeah, because it's anaphylactic shock. Yeah, so she's gotta have allergies or something. That's what they were talking about, changing of climate. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. But it's not the end of the world. She can control it by maintaining a proper lifestyle, as well as taking some medication. But it'll never be cured in her whole lifetime. She seemed to be having fun, even while being teased by Takano. I can't believe that she's suffering from an incurable disease. If you think of it in a negative way, you're right. But many people in the world are coping with incurable illnesses. Diabetes is a good example. The condition itself can never be cured, but the symptoms can be controlled. I know that very well. There are many worse diseases in the world. Satoko might be in a relatively good condition or situation compared to many other sick people. Of course, I'm not giving up on her. I'll make sure that I'll cure her disease someday, I promise. I trust you. I don't. Yeah, trust me. Irie spoke to me with a serious look on his face. As Satoko's best friend, I felt relieved to hear his words. I'm sure he'll do his best to save Satoko's life. I have no doubt that he'll do so. I've seen him act like this in every life I've lived. I also know why he's so passionate to save her, but I'm not supposed to know about it in this life. That's why I always pretend not to see his sad smile. By the way, Rika, we'll be conducting another big test at the end of the month. Am I going to be the guinea pig this time? It's not like that. You're only helping our studies, which will save many people's lives. Airi's guinea pig is not just Satoko, I'm also one of them. Although guinea pig is probably not the right term. Without Airi's efforts, Satoko would not be here today. For that reason, I should be showing respect to this man. I smiled at him, since my choice of words had hurt his feelings. If testing me can save Satoko's life, I don't mind being a guinea pig. Thank you for your support. I wouldn't be causing you so much trouble if I had more money and equipment. The next moment, the phone rang. Yeah, dude, still big sus on this guy. I just don't I don't trust this man, I'm sorry. I haven't trusted him since his maid-loving, almost pedophilic ass has showed up, okay? Not a fan of this lad. Airi answered it in his usual business-like tone. Hello, this is Airi. You have a call on the line from Tokyo. I'll transfer it to the other phone. Also, this is another thing I want to know, which we'll maybe never find out. Who the fuck killed Keiichi in the bad ending that was almost turning into a good ending in Chapter 5? I need to know that shit. This is important. I could hear the voice from the phone. That must be Risa then. Is it that time of the year already? I'm gonna pick it up at the office. Will you transfer it there? Absolutely. Please hang up on this line. In that case. Okay. Sorry, Rika. I got a call from Tokyo. Don't mind me. As soon as Airi hung up the phone in the other room started ringing. He left the examination room and headed toward the office. Hanyu returned to my side as soon as Airi left. Hanyu doesn't like to be around me when I'm talking with Airi. I don't think she dislikes him. It's just that she doesn't really want to hear what he has to say. Airi doesn't mean any harm, but Hanyu is often hurt by the things that come out of his mouth. How's Satoko doing? She's not good at spot the difference like usual. I was able to find more differences in her. I don't care how well you did. Yo, Rika, chill! Why is she so fucking chide with this girl? So, like... She's so mean. Like... I thought she was there to check on Satoko, but she was taking the quiz alongside her instead. That's so typical of Hanyu. She was treating it almost like a game, but Satoko was tired after taking the same quiz every week. She seemed sleepy, especially after waking up so early in the morning, or this morning. The quiz in this case wasn't about a right or wrong answer. It was about timing in minutes, how long it took her to answer the question, and observing how she acted during the quiz. Not all of the questions would be simple ones, so Satoko often got headaches, more so than even the spelling test we take at school. Is it almost over? Yeah, it is. The book Takano has right now is the last one. Takano was showing a book to Satoko with abstract pictures inside. I couldn't even tell if that was supposed to be a picture. It was just a symmetrical ink stain. Who got Rorschach blots? This is the last one. What do you think that is? Both Hanyu and I looked at the picture over Satoko's shoulders. Even I didn't know what to answer when looking at the strange ink stain. Satoko continued to think. Takano observed her, taking notes while Satoko struggled. He was also timing how long it took her to answer, holding a stopwatch under the table. I spoke to Hanyu, so only she could hear me. What do you think it looks like, Hanyu? It's soft serve ice cream. Fell onto the ground and ended up like this. It's been wasted. I see, this is a good test for understanding a person's mind. To me, it looked like a horse mackerel that had been cut open and its guts pulled out. I was thinking of food, too. Yeah, sure you were. It was rather shocking to learn that my thought processes are the same as Hanyu's. Well, not really, or you would have came up with the same thing, but what does it look like to you? You don't have to think too hard. Soko must not be very good at this test. She always takes a long time to answer questions like this. She finally opened her mouth to speak. It's like two butterflies are on top of each other. Two butterflies on top of each other? Tell me more about it. Why are they on top of each other? Takano continued to take notes as Satoko spoke. Curious about what she was writing, I looked, but is that German? Can't read it at all. Takano's so mean. They were apart for quite some time, but having finally reunited, they're excited to see each other again. I apologize. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. No, you're doing just fine. You can just tell me whatever's on your mind. That's the whole point of this test. Are you certain even such a strange answer is serving a purpose? Of course. For example, this picture. Or take this picture. You gave me a totally different answer last year. I can tell how you've changed just by comparing how you respond. Really, I don't like this test. What did I even say last year? Takano smiled and took a note without answering her question. I tried to remember what her answer was, but I have more than 100 years worth of memories in my head, so I guess that's got a little bit of a litmus for how long Rika's been doing this. Hanyu might remember better than I do. As I looked at Hanyu, I realized that she was standing there with a sad expression. I decided not to ask her. I could tell what kind of answers Toko gave back then just by looking at Hanyu's face. Last year, June 1982, that was when Satoko was being abused by her cruel aunt. Recalling that, I didn't even want to know what Satoko answered. But just a year later, the Satoko who was so worn down could no longer be seen. She became so strong. I know how difficult it was for her to stay tough and strong like this. Her growth over the past year is overwhelming to me. You done with the test? Ari returned from his office. Yeah, we're finished. Stoko's handling it a lot better now. We were done pretty quick today. Oh, did my best to ensure it was done with quickly. Done with quickly. I have plans after this, so I can't stay here too long. You have something after this? Today is Sunday, right? We're doing a club activity at Mii's uncle's toy store today. Oh, Chapter 2 timeline, Pog. Ha ha ha. No wonder you were so obedient with the test today. It was because you have plans. Sorry we held you so long. Well, here's your stuff, Satoko. Ari put a big paper bag on the table. He opened it up and gave her instructions about the medication. Satoko had heard the same instructions over and over before, but Ari continued to talk just the same. Since you're doing better, you can go back to 2 shots per day. Please give yourself a shot before lunch and before you go to bed. Make sure you change the needle every time. Don't ever use the same one twice. I'm prescribing this one in case you really need it when you're feeling sick. Yeah, same as usual, I know. Satoko couldn't wait to meet our friends for the club activity. Big sus on Irie again. It made me feel happy to see her as excited as this. She only has to take 2 shots per day now. I'm glad. The number of shots she had to take each day represents how well she's doing, so it's a good thing that she has to take fewer. It's tough for her to give herself a shot 2 times a day. Hanyu grew quiet after hearing my comment. Irie handed her the paper bag after he finished his instructions. Rika, at last it's over. Good job. You seemed anxious during the test today. Have fun with your friends. Sorry I was so tense. You have my thanks for all that you've done for me. Are you gonna make it on time? I can give you a ride there. Oh, I also bought a new stuffed animal. It's in my car. You can give it a name if you like. Oh my, what sort of creature could it be? I wonder what I should name it. Well, what is it exactly? It's a cat again. One with tiger stripes this time. I think you'll like it a lot. Man, I hope Takano's not super guilty, because she seems kind of nice in a weird way. Satoko and Takano are good friends. They're both fond of stuffed animals. Every time Takano gets a new one, she brags about it to Satoko. That's all they have in common, but having a friend like Takano is a special thing for Satoko. She's part of the Hojo family who tried to betray the village. People at the clinic are the only adults who will even talk to Satoko. Ha, have fun at the club. You should suggest wearing maid unit. Okay, dude, shut up. See you next week. Well, let's be going. Our battle today is not only against the club members. I'm itching to put my skills to the test. I bowed slightly and made it to leave the examination room, but I soon realized something. Irie was looking at me with a sad expression on his face. Just with that look, I could tell what he wanted to say. Please take care of Satoko if something happens to her. I nodded at him and stepped out into the hallway with Satoko. My goodness, I'm used to these tests and quizzes, but they always leave me exhausted. You don't like taking the tests? Well, I don't, but they are my job. There's nothing I can do about that. Satoko is supporting Irie's research. She gets financial support by helping him out, or at least that's what Satoko thinks she's doing. Satoko was bursting with enthusiasm, so we headed to Okinomiya at full speed. We wound up waiting for Keiichi and the other club members for a long time. We got here early, but they were late. I think they were late last time we did this too. Did it mean this was something that was meant to happen? It's unpleasant that I can't even change the most minor of fates. I finally saw them coming towards us on their bikes. Hello, everyone. How utterly slow all of you are. Satoko acted like she was upset, but I could tell that she was pleased to see them just the same. Satoko's so cute, you know. Whatever, you can ride that ship yourself. That's why I'll never tire of her. She's so adorable. You know, whatever you say. Satoko's behavior soothes my feelings of frustration. This is why I love Satoko. If she was a small, fluffy animal, I would definitely keep her in a cage. That's kind of fucked. Good morning, Satoko and Rika. Good morning. Hey, good morning, Rika. Satoko, think fast. We gotta do this before the cops get here. Our goal is 1 billion yen. Okay, sorry. I was getting griefed IRL. Good morning, Rika. Okay, I already said this line. Huh? Keiichi, what in the world are you talking about? Are we late? When did you guys get here? Didn't take too long, so we've been waiting here a while. Mion and Rina know that Satoko gets a checkup every Sunday at the clinic. Yeah, well, glad that you're just telling me this now. Sorry about that. He didn't show up on time, so that's why we're late. That Keiichi, so he's the reason they're always late. It's not really surprising. Wait a minute. Am I the bad guy here? Of course. Of all the club members, you're the only one who can play the villain. Oh ho ho. Also, I noticed this when I was looking back at the VOD from the last stream. There's some song in this game that is copyrighted for some reason. Because it muted the VOD for 5 minutes at like 3 random points during the last episode that I was playing. And it's never happened before. So I don't know if it was detecting the song wrongfully. I'll have to look into that, but what's that supposed to mean? You better watch your mouth. Keiichi and Satoko mess around with each other. Satoko acted like she was crying and Rina punched Keiichi, knocking him out cold. It was the same old situation they always got into. You can watch this sort of thing forever. It's like having a glass of cold milk after taking a hot bath. I feel like this shit would like make you just even more depressed. Huh? I can never win against her. You should get up and move before she cracks your front teeth. We all laughed at him and finished greeting each other. They're as lively as always. Nothing's more precious than one's health. You're sounding like an old lady, Rika. Shut up, who cares what you think? I'm not gonna eat any sweets if you keep on saying things like that. Hanyu seemed to be getting more depressed than usual. I should stop teasing her so much. Yeah, chill. It was a joke. Please get off of me. I'm sorry. Hanyu loves sweet treats. She especially loves cake and ice cream. Since she can't eat anything, she has to depend on me when it comes to that. In other words, whatever I eat, Hanyu can taste too. Even if Hanyu craves something, it doesn't mean anything if I don't eat it. In other words, I have total control of what she eats. That's why it's fun to tease her with saying what I'll eat and what I won't. It's almost as fun as teasing Satoko. Rika got a little bit of a sadist streak. You seem to be in a good mood today, Rika. I want to take you home. You'll be arrested if you do that, you know? Hey, Mion, the store owner's calling you. Rika, did you hear? There's to be a prize for the club activity today. I remember. Mion was going to be paying 50,000 yen out of her pocket as a prize. Couldn't believe she could just afford that. Therefore, I have to assume that she has some kind of guarantee that she won't lose. Do you know what it is? It's 50,000 yen. Satoko stared at me. Oh no. She was expecting me to be surprised to hear that the prize was 50,000 yen. It's natural to be surprised after hearing that sum. But I didn't react because I already knew it. Perhaps I gave the impression that I've known it for a long time. Keiichi, isn't it amazing that the prize is 50,000 yen? 50,000 yen? What the heck is that? It's like 5 years worth of the Keiichi GNP. That's pretty good. Satoko said the same thing to Keiichi. She probably assumed that I wasn't listening to her, so she decided to talk to Keiichi instead. Good going, Rika. That was just a small mistake. I'm fine. If I get 50,000 yen, I can get a lifetime supply of soy sauce. Wait, why ever would you buy soy sauce with a prize like that? Because a certain someone always gives me a dirty look when I ask her to go and get soy sauce from the store. You're so mean, Rika. How much soy sauce do you think you can even get for 50,000 yen? What's 50,000 yen, like 500 bucks? Yeah. I don't know what the USD conversion is, but it's like 565 Canadian. Man, I want to see. Keiichi joined the conversation, which finally brought us back to our normal pace. In order to pursue a greater happiness, I need to sacrifice a smaller one. In a perfect world, Rika Furude was supposed to be surprised to hear from her best friend that the prize was 50,000 yen. But I already knew that. I knew it from my previous lives, so all I could do was give her a boring reaction. I can't be surprised at the big prize of 50,000 yen. I can't give her the reaction that she expects from me. I am losing the ability to be surprised by life. And after the continual repetition of small incidents like this, there will be nothing left that I can find interesting. That's what I was saying. You're just going to be depressed at all times. I'll have nothing to be surprised about. I'll never be impressed with anything. Eventually, I'll lose my emotions entirely. Oops, I didn't mean to skip that one line. That's why I'm always trying to be careful and make sure I act like the Rika Furude who doesn't know anything. Even though I may not be impressed as a young girl, Rika Furude should be impressed with many things. So I guess this was the reason why I said for the longest time that it felt like Rika was oddly mature for her age. Because she is. Mentally. Rika Furude is supposed to act excited when she encounters something for the first time. I try to, at least. But the more and more I try, the more I feel like Rika Furude is someone very distant. Yeah. She's been lost. Rika, I'm sorry. I know I'm only wasting my lifespan by feeling depressed like this. I should enjoy this life. I don't mean my lifespan literally. I'm not referring to my physical lifespan, but my mental one. The more and more I repeat the same days, the more I lose from wonder to passion, and eventually my life will become like an overplayed videotape. If I'm tired of that tape, I have a choice to close my eyes and sleep. By the time I wake up, the video should be over. But in reality, my life is not a beat-up old videotape. If I close my eyes and sleep, that would mean my death. When my mental lifespan is over, Rika Furude will turn into a doll who can't even move a finger by her own will. When that happens, my pursuit of happiness will be over. Damn, not a big Will Smith fan, I guess. I don't want that to happen. It's been at least 100 years, if not more. I've been stuck in this living hell for so long. I don't want my life to end here. Sorry, I'm fine now. You must find it funny that I'm complaining about only a century. I've grown used to this fate by now. I like this girl. Hanyu kinda based, huh? Alright, I'm fine. I'm Rika Furude. If I don't stay focused on being Rika Furude, I'm afraid I might end up showing my true self inside of that shell. Rika Furude is supposed to be a cute and innocent little girl after all. Meep. What would you buy if you got 50,000 yen, Rina? I wonder if I can buy the Kenta doll. Do you think they'll sell it to me if I pay 50,000 yen to one of the Okinomiya chain stores? Oh, this was the guy, the mascot out front of the store, I think. I think it'd be easier for you to buy the tools and wheelbarrow to steal the doll. True. I bet Rina could break the chain with her bare hands if she wanted to. I guess there is a little bit of, I'm gonna have to refill my water here, but before I go refill it, there is one thing that's kind of nice about this, is that at least figuring out Rule X, which we kind of already knew just from experience, but it's nice to know that, well, we'll see, but it's nice to know, or at least seemingly, that no specific character is specifically at fault. So Mion should be safe. Bless up. Can we get my water? I'll be right back. Hello? Okay, we're back. I'll drink my water now, too. There you go. Wahaha. I agree on that one. You're all so mean. Thus we would join the typical flow of conversation naturally. Once I enter that flow, it's not hard for me to continue as Rika Furude. Being Rika Furude is like flying a kite for me. Once it's up in the air, it can stay in the sky for a while. But if something happens and it loses control, it's one heck of a challenge to get it back on track. Every time it tries to get back up in the air, the kite gets dragged to the ground and wears out. I'm exactly like that. Finally, Mion started clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. I already knew the rules. The members will be broken into 5 different groups, and each group plays a game that they choose together. I was secretly hoping that Mion would change the rules for some reason. There's nothing more boring than to already know what's going to happen. Mion can be very capricious, or capricious, I don't know how to say this word, we're searching it up. Shout out to Higurashi for probably the translation, putting in weird words.
Capricious.
Yeah, I said it right. Big. Or did I? I think I said capricious. Maybe I said capricious. I don't know. Who fucking cares? It's not important. She really might change the rules. Yeah, but it seems like she's been planning this game for several days already. Strong will can be fated too, huh? Normally when we're doing club activities, Mion decides what to play at the last minute. She opens her locker and randomly decides what game to play. For that reason, our club activities are rarely repeated throughout my lives. So I'm never bored with them. But just as Hanyu said, today's events are not something that Mion had been... Or, today's event was something that Mion had been planning for a while. I was certain she wouldn't suggest anything spontaneously today. In that case, this won't be up to random chance. Mion had only one idea in her mind. Therefore, it was equivalent to destiny. Although her idea of having this event in the toy store is actually a spontaneous one, yeah. In all the lives I've repeated, there's a very low chance for this event to occur. Wow, you hit the good RNG. You shouldn't expect anything to be different. I'm not expecting it. I'm guessing this is just her communicating internally to Hanyu, because otherwise these people would be like, bitch, are you good? Like, of course I was lying just now. I was hoping that Mion would suggest a new rule for this game. If it was the same rules again, I'd be suffering for a few minutes while I listened to her instructions. Nothing is more frustrating than walking the same path over and over again. Please, Mion. Please change my fate. Please. First, we're going to be divided into 5 different groups. The winner from each table. It was the same rules after all. Sorry, I was holding on to a small hope. Small hopes will hurt you, Rika. You're right. You told me so many times, but I never learned. Hanyu has taught me so many times. She taught me the trick to swimming in the flow of destiny. The flow of destiny is just like a river's. By going with the flow, I can swim the direction I want to some extent. But of course, trying to swim against the flow requires great effort. Allowing myself to drift causes the least amount of strain. Of course, some strong currents are impossible to resist, even with great effort. If I recklessly try to resist without realizing it's impossible, then I'll only wear myself out needlessly, just as if fighting a river's current. So Hanyu taught me to read those currents, which is why I should have easily imagined that the rules would be the same the moment I learned Mion had planned today's event in advance. Yet I still wish the rules would be different, a completely wasteful action. In the end, my hopes were betrayed, only leaving my heart worn out. And things like that cause me to separate further from Rika Furude. Eventually I'll grow tired of everything, lose all interest, and die. A fate which can't be fought must be accepted. Well, I mean, by definition, that's what fate is, you can't fight it. I know you can read the flow of destiny, Rika. You're right, my lifespan's already growing short. I should treasure what I have left. I sighed and pretended as though I was listening to what Mion was explaining. What's wrong, Rika? Are you bored? Keiichi surprised me all of a sudden. Are you talking to me? This had never happened before, so I thought he was talking to someone else. But it seemed like Keiichi really was talking to me. Yeah, you look bored ever since this morning. Are you sleepy from waking up too early? Ha ha. I was just thinking that I've already done this before. No one would understand what I mean anyway. But Keiichi might, and so I told him how I honestly felt. Huh? Are you serious? No wonder Mion seems so used to this. I'm looking forward to it since my first time though. I envied him for feeling that way. I sighed, knowing that I never will. I understand how frustrating it is to hear the same instructions over and over again. I went to cram school once and studied ahead a lot there. I remember how much I hated hearing the same lectures in school. Keiichi didn't understand me, but I'm glad that at least he understood how frustrating it was to repeat the same situation. I'm the same. I'm frustrated at school too. What? Are you really? You always seem so happy. Rika Furude is supposed to be happy at school. That's why I act that way. Hearing the same things over and over again is like torture. It's easy for me to change what Satoko cooks for dinner. I can simply volunteer to cook instead of her. But I can't change what the teacher teaches at school every day. I have no choice but to be quiet and listen to her lecture. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do. You can't just tell the teacher to move on because you already know what she's teaching you. But this is a different story. It's a game. It is a game, but it's already predetermined. Damn, dude, Rika is a hard determinist right now. Rika's, over the course of these next 2 chapters, is going to switch from being a determinist to being a compatibilist. Maybe eventually to a free willer. You don't know that. After all, we're being split into 5 tables by drawing lots, right? Plus each group gets to choose what game their table plays. There's no way to predict what games we'll do battle over or what exciting turnabouts await us today. But I can make a good guess. No, you can't. Keiichi smiled as he contradicted me. That smile seemed so ignorant to me. While the groups will be decided by drawing lots, each club member will be in a different group. Keiichi, you'll be sitting over there, my table will be right there, I'll be playing a fishing game. You'll be playing a game called Billionaire. I don't know how, but last time we were broken into 5 separate groups. Couldn't have been a coincidence. I'm sure Mion did something to ensure it would end up like that. I'm 100% sure. As for the games we play, I'm not totally sure, but if each member in the group follows the same thinking patterns, they'll probably end up making the same choices. If you roll dice many times, you begin to approach the average law of large numbers. One person's spontaneous act can be random, but multiple people's thoughts can be averaged out for the most part. The more people that are involved, the more difficult it is to alter the path of fate. True. That's why I'm pretty sure that we'll end up playing the same games. Keiichi seemed surprised to hear my prediction. What the hell? Is that like a premonition? How can you be so sure? That's what fate's all about. Fate, huh? Personally, I liked Zero. Bladework's a little bit overrated. That makes me want to smash that fate into pieces. He smiled at me again. I knew that he was just smiling without reason, but I felt a small hope from him. After all, Keiichi really did shatter fate before. But that was just a miracle that happened in my previous life. I couldn't expect him to do the same thing in this one. Otherwise, I would be worn down by my high expectations. Again. Alright, we're going to decide our groups by drawing lots from this box. The club members go first. Mion drew first, then Satoko followed. The results were the same as the last time. I really don't want to fight against a club member at the very start. I'm sorry if we get in the same group, Rika. Don't worry, your table's over there. Mine's right there. Whatever you say, you watch. Ugh. Keiichi looked upset. See? My predictions are always right. It was a 20% chance. Anyone can make a random guess. Keiichi told me that it was just a coincidence. Then what if I predicted my seat right too? What's the percentage for that? It's 20 of 20, so 4%. I'll believe if you get it right with a percent that low. Keiichi grinned at me, believing such a chance was impossible. It's your turn now, Rika. Mion handed me the box of slips. No matter what I did, I'll be getting that table. There's a reason behind it. I'm assuming maybe something will go different here. Mion was doing something to make sure that we all get a different table. I thought about why Mion would do that. Well, because she wants the sick final battle of all club members. With the information I've gathered about Mion over many years, I could see her reasoning. Probably thinks that she'll feel bad if a member loses in the first stage. You're right. If the club members are in the same group, someone will have to lose. Everyone was in a different group, we'd all have a chance to move on to the second stage. That's why she was controlling this draw. Put my hand inside the box, could feel several folded pieces of paper inside it. But if you thought for a moment, it was odd. No matter which one I choose, I'd never get any other table. I wonder how she's making it so you sit at the last table. Me too. Only Mion knows. All I know is that no matter which paper I choose, I'll be sitting at that last table. Ah, I got it. All the papers in the box are the same? That's what I was gonna say. They must be. I bet Mion set some kind of trap to this box. Probably a box for a magic show or something. There could be some kind of gimmick inside the box and she can switch what's inside of it. Depending on who's drawing the paper, she'd change out the lots and control the result. I didn't know exactly how, but I was sure she was doing something. I didn't even need to know how she was doing it. The most important thing was why. Meep, I don't know which one to pick. No matter which one you pick, your fate is already decided. She was admitting it herself. I love Mion. I was certain then, based on what I felt inside, there were less than 10 pieces of paper inside this box. In other words, there were hidden pieces of paper that I couldn't touch somewhere inside the box. I smiled at Mion as I figured out her trick, but she had no clue why I was smiling. I'm taking this one. Sure, let me see. Wow, the club members are all divided into separate groups. Mion behaved as though this was news to her. She's such an actress, my girl. The other contestants made a dissatisfied noise. They'd have to face a club member no matter which table they got. Keiichi was surprised too, and not only because we were divided. See? Our fate is already decided. I smiled at him in return. Keiichi was in denial for a moment, but then he smiled back at me. Possibility was 1 in 25. I'm impressed. Still, that's not super crazy odds. Like, I mean, that's low, but it was not. I predicted that Mion and Satoku would be at a different table, so the possibility was even lower than that. Keiichi understood that, but normal people like him can't understand that meaning of fate. That's why he put it off as a coincidence. Keiichi, what if my prediction is right about what game you'll be playing? The possibility will be 1 in billions. Dude, okay, well let's do some hypothesis testing here. Get the p-value. If it's less than your alpha, we're good. There are a lot of games in this store. What if the prediction is right too? Well, you still believe it's just a coincidence? I stayed quiet in my seat and waited to see what game my group was going to decide on. They were going to choose that fishing game. Or the fishing game. I can't expect them to choose anything other than that. I can't have high expectations, otherwise I'll be hurt again. One of the boys stood up. He walked towards the shelf full of games and picked up one box. He lifted the box above his head and turned around so he could show it to us. I closed my eyes as he did so, but I could still hear what he was saying. Check this out. You gotta remember this. We should play this one. Yeah, it's the one with the spinning fish, right? I could taste the bitter chemicals from my brain in my mouth. I clenched my lips and tried to endure the numbing feeling. I'm sorry. Guess I'm not doing well today. For some reason, I just can't accept this flow. Damn, dude, Rika's got to enter the flow state. Come on! It wasn't because I wasn't feeling well, of course. It was because of my emotions. Our powers are getting weaker, and we can only rewind about 2 weeks of our lives. I was feeling that the end was near for us. In order for me to change my tragic fate, I need more time to prepare. But I can only go back 2 weeks. That means my power to resist my fate has significantly weakened. Even if I become as weak as a small leaf in the river, I should be able to do something in order to change my path. But if I can only go back to the point where I'm getting ready to be swallowed into the whirlpool, then there's no chance for me to escape it. I lived for so long believing that I could eventually escape my fate and survive. I believed that I had a chance in every moment of every life I lived. There are limits to those chances. There are so many limits in my repeated lives, and perhaps this might be my last chance. This may be why I'm feeling so restless. Stop it, Rika. The harder you think about it, the worse it'll be on your mind. I know, just be quiet already. Dude, poor Hanyu, just getting roasted like 24/7. My brain was numb, as if surrounded by a gray mist. I was inside the crowded toy store, but felt very far away from everyone else. The tighter I closed my eyes and the harder I clenched my teeth, the emptier my head became. No. Rika, are you okay? Huh? As I tried to focus, I became conscious again. Hanyu looked at me with concern. I tend to lose my mind easily right after coming back from death. I usually have more time to relax and get used to my new life, but I have no time for that now. The Watanagashi Festival is only 2 weeks away. I can't just relax and wait for myself to get used to things. Don't be a wimp, Rika. Fight against fate. But even if I do that, fate always betrays me and I grieve. What if I did the opposite? What if I didn't fight against fate? A few weeks after the Watanagashi Festival of 1983, I will die because I'm fated to do so. Fight, don't fight. 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 As I repeated the same words, I started to lose all meaning. Felt like I was chanting something. I had a thought there, but then I started doing the fight, don't fight chant, and I lost what I was saying, or what I was thinking. I bit my tongue in my mind and forced myself to stop thinking about it. I was calming down a little bit. When I opened my eyes, I saw the fishing game right in front of me as well as my pole. Someone placed it there while I had my eyes closed. It was as if I was seeing the immovable reality of fate. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was going to start being like real snide with definitions and saying like, well, I mean, if you want to be really technical, there isn't actually, like, some of the things that can be avoided aren't necessarily fate. So, like, Rika dying, because, of course, we're going to assume that somehow she breaks the cycle. Or Keiichi helps her break the cycle, however it happens. But regardless of however it happens, it's not necessarily fate if it doesn't happen, because if it's fate, it will always happen. So you can't really break fate, because it wouldn't be fate if you could break it. But we don't need to get into the tautology of all this dog shit. Dude, my chair is so dog. You guys can probably hear this shit when it cracks. It's got like something in it that's fucked. Felt like a final verdict to me. What do you think, Keiichi? This is what fate is all about. Do I want to earn his agreement or his sympathy? I stood up and walked towards Keiichi's table. The group couldn't decide on a game, so the store owner was deciding for them. Just like the last time, the store owner will pick the game of life. Yep, actually, it's called Billionaire in this. It's kind of unfair to play a game that your opponent chooses. We couldn't decide on anything because we kept refusing each other's suggestions. So your table decided on what to play. You can see it for yourself. He looked at my table and saw the fishing game there. Keiichi was surprised to see that my prediction was right. Again! He also remembered that I predicted his game too. So you're saying that the owner is going to bring out the game of life just as you predicted. Guys, you were calling it Billionaire earlier. Be careful of the copyright that you're infringing on right now, okay? Pretty good at predicting things. Are you serious? Alright, I'll believe you if he really brings us the game of life. You bet. Your group is going to play the game of life. Fine, I'm willing to bet you. Don't you cheat and talk him into it. He wants you to play a game he has a lot of, so he'll be bringing that one out. I remember it was covered by dust when he gave it to them last time. Since we had to buy the game if we lost, he was trying to sell products he had a surplus of. Hey, good-ass business owner. Therefore, he won't be choosing any game at random. He'll be looking for one with bad sales, with a strong will to do so. That will of his is going to make the pull of fate all the stronger. In that sense, there's no guarantee that he'd be choosing the game of life specifically. He might choose something else that's also overstocked. The owner finally reappeared with the box covered in dust. Excuse me. Whoa, see? Told you so. He had a game of life box in his hands. The part of me that hoped it wouldn't be the game of life tasted bitterness at the betrayal, but the cynical part of me that expected it to happen found it amusing in a way. I felt like my personality was twisting more and more. Why did you pick that game, huh? Well, I just picked it at random. I found it in the pile of inventory I have in the back. It's not like I brought the most beat up one. When he heard that the owner chose the game randomly, Keiichi shrugged his shoulders in confusion. That must be his way of surrendering. Hey Rika, is this really a prediction? Well, some old people from the village once told me that you're the reincarnation of Oyashiro. They told me that you have special powers. They said your predictions are always accurate. Is that really true? I was surprised that Keiichi actually believed the superstitious stories he heard from the elderly villagers. I just know that which is destined to happen. To make it clear, it's because I've already witnessed this world once before. Damn, dude, she's really going hard out. Yeah, look at my man's just going, damn, dude, he Kendrick Lamar'd her right now. I can't even make fun of you. Keiichi seemed like he was just fooling around. Probably only thinks I'm goofing around and acting haughty because of my random predictions all coming true. I had hope for him. I thought the owner might bring a different game because Keiichi once had the power to change fate. But that didn't happen. Not surprised. But I felt betrayed again. Wait, dude, Rika's literally fucking, literally Nate Diaz right now. I'm not surprised, motherfucker. But I felt betrayed again. Huh? It hurts. I won the bet. Speak to Keiichi sarcastically. I wanted him to understand that no one can change the path of fate. However, Keiichi did nothing but smile. Don't get carried away, Rika. Don't just say that you can read the future. For a guy, words like destiny and fate mean a lot more than you think. They're not things you can figure out that easy. I had no idea what he was trying to say, but he made me nervous. It wasn't a scary feeling. No, it was closer to hope. He said it was fate that the owner would choose the game of life. I have to admit that your prediction was correct, but he also said something else. What did I say? He said billionaire. He said I was fated to play it. Yes. It was indeed his fate. Fate can change sometimes with uncertainty and time. Well, then it's not fate. We don't need to get into this again, but I will bitch and moan about this. Me and one of my buddies, we argued about this a long time. I'm going to mute the game for a second. Me and my buddies argued about this a long time ago that I actually think the word fate and destiny are kind of like pointless words. They don't mean anything. They have no utility because you can say at the end of anything that ever happens that it was fated to happen because that's just the way that it turned out. But you can't actually know if that was the only thing. You don't know if there's multiple possibilities. You don't know if determinism is right and that there is only one true path. If there is only one true path, then you're right, it's fated, but we don't know. The word fate is a loaded term, okay? There you go. Welcome to my TED Talk, and it's over now. But the possibility that it would change in this situation was very slight. I doubted that anything would turn out differently. So it seems like Riga can almost influence other people to change fate. So. In that case, I'll change that fate. Keiichi stood up in a hurry. Then he started talking to Tomita and Okamura as group members. Sorry, but I own that game at home. I know every little rule about it. What? Is that true? Yep. So that won't be a fair game for us to play. Sir, I'm sorry, but can you give us a different game? Sure, I'll bring you guys a different one. The owner picked up the game of life again and took it back into storage. As I remained there in shock, he returned with a game called Pop-Up Pirate. How about this one? Oh, this is the one where we stab a knife inside the barrel. Oh, this one! Yo, I love this game! I had this as a kid. Is this a real... Is that the real name of the toy? Yeah, it actually is. Yo, this toy was sick! This reminds me of the, if you ever had the crocodile as well, where you would push the teeth down. And it was, if you pushed down the wrong tooth, it would close. Oh, dude, this brought back a memory I didn't know I had. Dude, I remember these shitty little colored plastic swords. Holy fuck, I'm having like a absolute brain melt right now looking at this. Okay, sorry. What do you think, guys? This is a fair game, isn't it? Totally RNG, dude. The rules are simple enough. Let's play that one. We got a deal now. We're gonna play Pop-Up Pirate. Keiichi winked at me as I stood there with my mouth open. It looked like he had just forcefully changed my prediction, but for me, it's not that simple. It was supposed to be fate. That's why the owner brought the game of life to their table. They were supposed to play that game. That's what happened the last time. That's what was supposed to happen. But he just changed the fate in front of my eyes like it was nothing. That fate in front of my eyes. It's as if someone asked me to stand an egg on his end, and as I struggled to do so, Keiichi forcefully cracked the egg and made it stand up in front of me. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I should have had a far greater power than Keiichi, but why was I feeling so weak? Was it because I wasn't trying to fight against fate so I wouldn't get hurt? Because I was going with the flow without trying too hard? What was I thinking? You looked so bored just a few minutes ago. I know why. You didn't want to play the fishing game, did you? Yeah, I'm not gonna hide it anymore. And that's easy. So I'm a witch who's been living for more than 100 years, so I thought I was better than everyone just because I can see the paths of fate? That's stupid. I really am so stupid. Keiichi tapped me on the back. He was urging me to return to my table. The sensation of his touch filled up my heart with emotion. Okay, let's chill here. We got a little bit of an age gap here, okay? I wasn't gonna stand idly by anymore. I thought I couldn't cheat fate. I thought 2 weeks wasn't enough. But Keiichi just defied his fate in a matter of 5 minutes. I feel bad for the fishies when I play the fishing game. I want to play something else. The other people at my table looked at me with confused expressions. Their reactions were scaring me. Right at that moment, I could really feel that I was facing the impenetrable wall of fate. Even so, I have nothing to be scared of. Sure, what game do you want to play? We'll play whatever you want. They accepted my suggestion and gave up on the fishing game so easily. That's right, I used to be much more aggressive before. But I became so tired and bitter. And mean. I gave in to fate. But I'm not going to yield anymore. Keiichi taught me that. He didn't have any memories from his previous life, but Keiichi was still Keiichi. He'd never give in to fate. For the first time in a long time, I feel motivated to fight. If I want to, I can change destiny in 5 minutes, and I have 2 whole weeks to work with. I'm different now. I'm Bill Dipperly. I'm going to fight against fate. Let's do our best. In contrast to my motivation, Hanyu was wearing a sad expression. Because Hanyu thinks you're just going to hurt yourself by doing this. Mion's still the best character in this game, I'm sorry. GeForce Game Ready Driver is available. I see. We can't hold you here if you have to go help your uncle. Yo, Keiichi? Time to rewrite the mistakes of the past. Give me on the doll. Give her the doll. That's right, but you know. Couldn't he have guessed that if he did a bargain sale, his place would be packed? Can't believe he's selling a carton of eggs for only 10 yen. We were getting ready to move on to the next stage. Mion got a call from work. This was fated to happen too. If I was still feeling depressed, I would have been disgusted with the situation. But after learning what it felt like to change fate, I was in a good mood. Keiichi and Mion seemed like they kept regretting that they were unable to settle their match. Or the match. They really are such good friends. They're so close. I feel kind of jealous. We really do not have any other boys his age in our class, do we? I suppose Mion is something like a male friend to Keiichi. No! Ahaha, Mia's a girl. She can't be another guy for him. Of course I know that, but when they're together they look like 2 boys hanging out. Just dudes hanging out, enjoying themselves. The next moment, the owner came out of the store. Dude, I wish I could just whisper in Keiichi's ear, be like, brother, you don't realize, if you don't give her this fucking doll, her sister is gonna go on a fucking murderous rampage. Just please believe me. Like, please. Please just listen to me, like, do it. Okay. Dude, my lips are all chapped. One second, I gotta see if my fucking, Let's say my lipstick. My lip balm is here. Yeah, it is. Okay, one sec. Okay, there we go. Much better. Oh, I'm muted? Yeah, okay, I'm unmuted. Sorry. I don't know. I don't need to explain. It's stupid. Okay, whatever. Next moment, the owner came out from the store. Thank you for today, everyone. You brought me a lot of customers. He was holding 4 paper bags in his hands. I remember, he gave us gifts as a reward for today. I think there were dolls inside. Here are your rewards for today. Hey, Uncle Yoshiro. Don't I get one? He was giving them only to us. Mion didn't get anything because she's a family member. That's what happened last time, too. Oh, look. Something cute is inside. Stoko let out a cheer of joy as she saw a cute doll inside of her bag. Rina reacted the same way. What? This is so cute. Take it home with me? Really? I get one too? Wow, look at this cute doll. Keiichi got a gorgeous, expensive-looking doll. It was by far the best one. Based. It was adorable even to my eyes. Wow. Stoko, Rina, and Mion were feeling the same way. Please, Keiichi, my man. You're about as smart as a bag of fucking rocks. But now's your chance to right your wrongs. Kei got the one that fits him the least. Mion started making fun of him right away. She's only saying that because she was jealous that Keiichi got a doll that she really wanted. This is pretty and cute, I can admit that, but it's not really my type of toy. Yeah, people will think you're a pervert if you carry that thing around. Mion just can't be honest with herself. Stop! I want to rerun chapter 2 again, please! It was obvious that she was just trying to make him give up the doll so she could have it herself. She should have just... Fuck! I can't read! She should just admit that and ask Keiichi for it. That's the cute side of Mion. I bet Keiichi can never understand that. Hee. Keiichi can't keep the doll after receiving that much bullying from Mion. He was thinking about who he should give it to. Probably didn't want to give it to Mion. Time froze for a moment. Hanyu whispers something in my ear. Rika, do you remember? Yes. Oh, pfft. Quick save this? I advise him on who to give the doll to. What the fuck? I remembered. Remember that Keiichi's insensitive decision eventually caused a fatal ending. That was fate. Keiichi was internally thinking that he should give the doll to Mion. She was the only one who didn't get anything, so it'd be natural for him to give it to her. But the hesitation he was feeling was because Mion was such a close friend to him. He'd been treating Mion as if she was a male friend. It'd be weird to give a doll to another boy. No, it wouldn't. That's based. Fellas. As a wise man once said, fellas, is it gay for a guy to enjoy some dolls? The fuck is this? Give a man a break. He was afraid that if he gave the doll to Mion, he would start looking at her as a girl from that point onward. Hell yeah. He wanted to continue his friendship with Mion without thinking about their difference in gender. Keiichi's actually very forward-thinking. What a guy. He didn't want to ruin the relationship they had at that moment. That's why he couldn't give the doll to Mion. Even though she was the only one without a doll. Okay, we get it. You can stop repeating yourself now. Of course, that was only how he felt. Mion didn't agree. In actuality, she wished he would treat her more like a girl. I walked closer to Keiichi so I could talk to him. If Mion heard me telling Keiichi to give her the doll, she would resist taking it. I had to make sure that no one but Keiichi could hear me. Yo, Keiichi, give the doll to Mion, you fucking bitch. I also had to make this very quick. I poked Keiichi in the back. Huh? Keiichi, the person who really wants that doll is the one who's bullying you the most about it. I was gonna say that, but Keiichi opened his mouth first even before I could say anything to him. I know. Wait, look at this. Look at the Chad. I know. Oh my god, dude, this is the perfect timeline right now. I hadn't said anything to him yet, but Keiichi told me that he knew. I felt confused, not knowing what he just meant. He turned around to face Mion, smiling mischievously. Mion, if you think I would look like a pervert with this doll, who do you think deserves to have it, huh? I don't know. All I'm saying is that dolls aren't for boys. I see. Then I guess you can have it. Keiichi, my man, not being a kappa for the first time in his life. Here. Keiichi tossed the doll to Mion as if passing her a basketball. My man just gave her the two-handed pass. As if forcing I'm sorry, I'm having a stroke. I couldn't read this sentence. As if forcing her to carry his bag. I don't think an extra 2 was here. It's forcing her to carry his bag or something. Mion's face quickly turned red. Feeling shy, Keiichi turned away from her. That was surprising. He got my message just by getting a tap on his back. Dude, Rika is like... She can divert fate. One second. So I put, Rika can divert fate somewhat. She just hasn't realized it yet. See, board game switch and Keiichi giving the doll to Mion, and I also put as an add to this, perhaps she can only do it through Keiichi. So maybe she can only make that change happen through him. Because both of those actions have been him so far, you know. Keiichi always that smart? Just one tap was all it took. I don't think he would have done the same in a previous life. This is just a small incident, but this world is definitely different from the previous one. Or could it be? Perhaps he would have given that doll to Mion even if I didn't poke him in the back? I mean, we could quick load and find out, but I don't really want to. Does he have memories from previous worlds after all? No way, he can't. That can't be happening. I know for a fact that he doesn't have those memories, but there might be something imperceptible somewhere else inside his heart. He might remember some of the regrets he felt in the previous worlds. That's why he strongly felt he should be giving the doll to Mion this time. After repeating so many lives, I'm the only one who can even notice this slight growth of his. But I see it. It's clearly visible to me. Mion, having turned red, insisted that the cute doll would be a much better fit for Rina. Her attitude made it clear that she really wanted the doll, but couldn't be honest about it. This old man just thinks that cute dolls like this are more for girly girls, you know? It's kind of a feels bad man at the same time. The doll doesn't deserve to be owned by a tomboy like me. Dude, Pepe hands. I know that you want it. It's written all over your face. No, it's not written on my face. You're lying. Stop being mean. Mion shook her head with an embarrassed look, pretending she wasn't interested in the doll. Everyone here knew that she wanted it. Okay, this line in isolation is a little bit sussy, okay? Let's not phrase things like this, okay? We all looked at Mion with big smiles on our faces. Hey, it's not like I can only give this doll to a girl. Just think of it as my gift to you as a friend. Oh, that kind of dulled the blade a little bit there. This kind of dulled the blade. Is that so? So you'd give the doll to a boy, too? Well, I would choose something else if I had a choice. But anyways, guys would never reject a gift unless there's something shady going on. It's just me being generous. Why would you refuse it? Oh, so I can accept this doll even though I'm not a girly girl. Everyone thought Mion's reaction was hilarious. Rina couldn't stop chuckling. Stogo and I burst out laughing too. Mion, having realized she was being laughed at, got even more embarrassed. I'm offering this to you as a friend. I don't want to hear that you're not cherishing it. Oh, okay. This old man just wants to make it clear that he is not accepting this because he wants this doll. He's taking it because he said it's a gift from you as a friend. He's taking it as a courtesy so he doesn't disrespect your generosity. That was kind of like a little bit of a... kind of wholesome, but you kind of missed the message at the same time. Hanyu was cracking up too. She was laughing in a loud voice, knowing that no one could hear her anyway. Was this really a good way to resolve the problem? I thought that Mion issue she want. That's what I was just saying. It's kind of, you're not really addressing the point here, you know? Kind of like... It's like you're, I don't know, it's like you're not, it's a glancing strike here. She got the doll, but Keiichi still wasn't treating her that way. Still, Mion looked very happy. Maybe it wasn't a big deal after all. Sure that Mion will take that doll with her to bed tonight. She'll kiss a good night to do. Good night too. I could bet on that too. Fuck, I was written all over her face. She's finally accepted it. It was a challenge just for me to give her a doll. Keiichi turns around to face us, smiling bitterly. Huh, you did it though. Yep, it was perfect. I'm impressed that you managed that. Mion was hilarious. It's obvious the moment you looked... Oh, it was obvious the moment you looked that she really wanted the doll. Isn't that the truth? Hey, you guys, are you saying rude things about this old man? Knock it off already. Don't you have to get to work? Yeah, they're like... Dude, they're literally roasting her now, too. They're like, you don't have to worry about what we're saying. Run along, chap. You got work to do. Fuck off. You guys better watch yourselves. Mion seemed like she wanted to stay longer, but after looking at her watch, she started heading to work. Her watch that they don't draw on her model that she doesn't wear. Everyone was wearing smiles on their faces. Today was such a fun day. Everyone had lots of fun and no one was hurt. I've repeated this same day so many times before, but this time something was different. It's like I rolled a die and got a 6, and then I rolled it again and got a 6 again. 1 out of 36 chance, Pog. I don't know if it was just a lucky coincidence or if it was meant to be. It's as if the God of Fate is celebrating my motivation to fight against him. Dude, the God of Fate is just bored too. He just wants to fight. The guy's roided up. End of the chapter? Nice. Okay, one sec. I gotta check something real quick. Actually, ooh, why was this? This achievement is so fucked up. You can't see it, but like there's a bunch of space in it. Okay, we'll read this tip, then I gotta check something. I was watching TV with Satoko and Hanyu after eating dinner. It was a variety show, and the performers were making the audience laugh. We were laughing too. Ha ha ha, look at you now. But it looks so painful. Well, the three of us were enjoying ourselves. In reality, there was only Satoko and me in the room. I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. Satoko can't see her at all. Hanyu responds every time Satoko says anything. Satoko can't hear her, but Hanyu still responds to her when she's in a good mood. It's like she's answering a question asked on TV. You could even compare it to playing house. She started playing this game with other people because she can't communicate with anyone else but me. Hanyu always pretends our club meetings, I'm literally dyslexic. Hanyu always attends our club meetings and has a good time there too. If she could communicate with my other friends, she would have been a good match for us. But I don't want to hurt her feelings by thinking about that. If the story of the miracle written in the old scripture is true, if it's really Hanyu who performed it, she's someone who had tremendous power long ago. But now, she doesn't have any spiritual power, and I'm the only one who can even see her. Hanyu has never told me how she lost her power. I just have to assume that her spiritual power diminished over time, so she's kind of like the real identity of Oyashiro. There's a legend in the Furude family that says that Oyashiro will be reborn if a girl is born to the family 7 generations in a row. With my birth, Hanyu was finally able to communicate with a human for the first time in centuries. Does that mean that Oyashiro has returned? The villager's image of Oyashiro doesn't quite match up with that of Hanyu. Especially when I see her lying on her belly and watching TV with Satoko. Huh. Okay, folks, I don't want to give you bad news, but dinner's ready, and I don't know if I want to hang around for an extremely long time today. We will be back tomorrow, and probably the day after that. We'll finish this in 2 subsequent streams. They'll just be a bit longer. I wasted a lot of time doing theory at the start of this, which I should have done before. But we'll be back tomorrow. Then we'll also be back the day after to finish Chapter 7. We then might take like a 1 or 2 stream break, because I might play It Takes Two then, or we'll just finish Chapter 8 right after, and we'll go into I'm going to play It Takes Two on stream with one of my buddies. So the question will be whether or not we do it in between 7 and 8, or if I'll just finish. I'll probably just finish it first, actually. So you can expect, I'll put a date on it, okay? We're going to be done Higurashi in a week's time. Guaranteed, okay? No shot. We'll be done this. In fact, we'll probably be done by Monday or Tuesday of next week. And then it'll be It Takes Two, maybe one other game in between, and then we'll we'll bounce back to what's it called? To Yumineko, which is gonna take even fucking longer. But now that I don't have school, maybe consistent stream times. So that's all for now. Have a good night, and I'll be on tomorrow.